Chapter 94. On Li Zongjiu's fist, an obscure golden light emerged. However, the elder that Li Zongjiu was aiming at was disdainful. "You want to use your fist to shake my black gold sword? If you succeed, I'll eat shit on the spot." The elder had a bad temper, but in the next second, Li Zongjiu's fist landed on the elder's black gold sword. Suddenly, a terrifying force spread and exploded. It directly surged into the elder's black gold sword. Boom! The elder's black gold sword suddenly flew out of his hand. The black gold sword that flew out was aimed at another elder. The elder cursed and had no choice but to free his hand to block the sword. In the next second, the hot-tempered elder saw Li Zongjiu's fist coming towards his eye. Bang! A sharp pain came from his nose. Li Zongjiu had broken the bridge of his nose. His eyes were bloodshot, and his ears were immediately filled with the sound of his own bones breaking. It was deafening. Li Zongjiu's fist not only knocked the elder's sword away, but also directly knocked him down. A 6th-grade Yuanshi realm elder was knocked down by Li Zongjiu just like that. This kind of strength was simply unbelievable. Primeval Golden Palm. The two elders joined forces to attack. After all, there were so many people, and Li Zongjiu was trapped in the encirclement. If they were suppressed like this, then their Su family would not be able to show their faces. Before entering the business world, who wasn't a Jianghu person? In the past, they used to go around looking for people to fight, smash places, and collect protection fees. But now, they were at a higher level. However, if they really wanted to fight, even though they were a little restrained now, if they really wanted to be ruthless, even they would be afraid. Two waves of energy came from behind. Li Zongjiu could naturally dodge. However, Li Zongjiu wanted to test the power of his ancient tyrant golden body and see what kind of attack it could block. Bang bang! The two primeval chaos golden palms landed on Li Zongjiu's body at the same time, one on his back and the other on his head. Even if the palm strike from the back could not shatter one's internal organs, it could at least shatter one's shoulder blades. At the same time, this palm strike was enough to smash a normal person's head like a watermelon. Li Zongjiu was able to withstand the pressure from both palms at the same time. It was a bold move. Boom! The two forces surged into Li Zongjiu's body. However, as the ancient golden tyrant body art automatically circulated within his body, it actually refined the power of the two palms, causing Li Zongjiu's body to feel incomparably relaxed. Although Li Zongjiu felt extreme pain when he was struck by the palm on his back, he was able to suppress it very quickly. How could it not hurt when being hit? However, Li Zongjiu also successfully intercepted the destructive power of the two elders. He managed to protect himself. When the ancient golden tyrant body art circulated within his body, Li Zongjiu clearly felt that his strength seemed to have increased a little. What, this kid is fine. Impossible. The two elders saw that Li Zongjiu, who was under their palms, was not injured at all. There was not even the slightest bit of adverse reaction. They were immediately shocked. The elemental energy that Li Zongjiu had used seemed to have been devoured by a mouth that had grown out of his body. Retreat. The two elders saw that the situation was not good and immediately wanted to retreat. However, how could Li Zongjiu let them leave so easily? Too late. Li Zongjiu waved the seemingly useless embroidered sword in his hand and directly cut off the two elders' arms. Blood splattered dozens of meters high and finally fell to the ground with a plop. Even the fingers on their arms twitched a few times. Ah! My hand! Intense pain swept through the two elders, immediately bringing a great impact to them. Both of you, back off. Su Yuliang descended from the sky and slashed at Li Zongjiu with his sword. The sword aura spread out for dozens of meters. Li Zongjiu took a step back and actually stretched out his hand, directly grabbing the blade of the sword. The surrounding sword aura was nothing to Li Zongjiu. Even the two elders' close-range mixed yuan palm could not shake him in the slightest, let alone this mere sword aura. This guy, does he want to die? Seeing that Li Zongjiu actually dared to stand on the spot and use his fingers to grab the sword of the Yuan general-level powerhouse. This was Bai Luoxue's first reaction. Even if he wanted to act tough, he had to look at the situation. What was the point of acting tough in such a risky situation? Bai Luoxue's heart was almost in his throat, about to jump out of his throat. Su Youliang's sword had already descended. Boom! Li Zongjiu's 2 fingers firmly clamped down on Su Youliang's sword. Su Youliang's eyes widened. Li Zongjiu's actions were simply an insult to him, the head of the Su family. Under the long sword, Li Zongjiu's eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule. You can't even grab the sword. The Su family is actually led by such a piece of trash. Li Zongjiu laughed coldly. Su Youliang immediately felt that the sword in his hand seemed to be controlled by a tyrannical force. Under this force, Su Youliang could not even control his arm to lift the sword. This is mental energy. Mental energy could not be seen with the naked eye. Only those who also possessed mental energy could sense it. However, if you were controlled by an invisible and powerful force, then you would know how terrifying mental energy was. At this moment, Su Youliang's heart was shaken. Whoosh! The sword in Su Youliang's hand suddenly flew out, whistling as it flew forward, instantly piercing an elder of the Su family. Before the elder could react, he saw the sword piercing through his chest. Ugh! Blood instantly gushed up to his throat. Before he could say anything, he had already knelt on the ground. At this moment, another 2 elders rushed up and quickly sealed his acupoints. Only then did they save his life. Playing tricks. Even if you have mental energy, it's impossible for you to hurt me. You're only a grade 1 Yuan master. Su Youliang roared. At this moment, Su Youliang had a rough estimate of Li Zongjiu's strength. When the elders heard that Li Zongjiu was only a grade 1 Yuan master, they were shocked and did not dare to believe it. If Li Zongjiu was only a grade 1 Yuan master, how could he be so difficult to deal with? The energy in Su Youliang's body exploded, immediately turning into a mountain torrent as it swept towards Li Zongjiu. Mayfly shakes the tree, stormy waves palm. Water attribute energy could also turn into the aura of 10,000 galloping horses. It was as if 10,000 elephants were trampling on a mountain. Blood extinguishing palm. Li Zongjiu could not dodge this palm, so he circulated his energy. The blood dragon in his body woke up and roared as it rushed forward. Boom! Chapter 95. Li Zongjiu's blood annihilation palm collided with his opponent's palm technique. In an instant, the powerful impact created an extremely shocking aura. Boom! Both of their Yuan energies exploded wildly. Li Zongjiu's figure was sent flying by a huge gust of wind. His entire body flew backward and landed on the ground with a loud boom. At this moment, he had already retreated a distance of more than 10 meters, barely stopping in front of Bai Luoxue. Bai Luoxue wanted to go forward and help Li Zongjiu up. However, she could feel the surging energy within Li Zongjiu's body. If she touched it carelessly, it would definitely spread to her body. However, the energy that Su Youliang had unleashed had completely disappeared within Li Zongjiu's body. It did not have any effect at all, as if it had been completely absorbed by Li Zongjiu's body. This was incomparably shocking. Could it be that Li Zongjiu's body was a monster? My palm. He looked at Su Youliang, who was standing on the same spot and seemed to have the upper hand. At this moment, Su Youliang was holding his own hand. Looking at his palm, he saw that the flesh and blood had already fallen off and was completely corroded. Now, all that was left of his palm was this white bone. How could a normal person not be shocked when such a horrifying thing happened to him? Patriarch, be careful. A sharp-eyed elder immediately drew out his sword and slashed at Su Youliang's wrist. The neat incision was also revealed. At the same time, a large amount of blood spurted out from his wrist. Su Youliang immediately covered his wrist and glared at the elder. Could this elder be a traitor? But soon, Su Yuliang saw that his hand had been chopped off, and a bit of his wrist was still there. It was completely corroded. If it had been just a little bit later, his entire arm would have been gone. What? Seeing this scene, Su Yuliang was completely shocked. What a vicious palm technique! Where did you learn such a vicious palm technique? Su Yuliang growled. How could he swallow his anger when his hand was broken by Li Zongjiu? He looked at Li Zongjiu and saw that Li Zongjiu was not injured at all. This made Su Yuliang even angrier and even more shocked. Could it be that this fellow couldn't be killed? Even the patriarch was no match for this demon. In their opinion, Li Zongjiu's methods were methods that only demons could use. This level of strength was simply too terrifying. He couldn't believe that the entire Su family couldn't do anything to a mere youth. In this huge Su family, there was no deterrent force at all. Beep! In the sky, the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle suddenly let out a loud cry. Then, a violent electric light bloomed from its body and directly blasted towards the Su family's patriarch. It was as if the patriarch was locked on, and there was no way for him to dodge. With a boom, the powerful electric light hit the Su family's patriarch. The Su family's patriarch's body suddenly exploded in the sky. Boom! The Su family's patriarch, who was charred black, fell from the sky and smashed in front of everyone. The golden-winged blue-tailed eagle landed on the roof. It proudly shook its feathers. Even if it didn't land, it still brought a great impact to them. The great ancestor was actually defeated. Moreover, he was directly roasted to such a state. His fate was extremely miserable. They could even see the pain on the ancestor's face before he died. He seemed to want to scream, but at this time, his throat had already been burned to nothingness. Such a tragic end was placed in front of them. Gulp! An elder swallowed his saliva. Even Su Yuliang's eyes widened as he looked at the patriarch's corpse. At this moment, the person who went to the Di Xian Alliance to ask for reinforcements returned. However, the expression on his face was very grave. After seeing such a tragic scene, he knew that the situation didn't improve. Even the patriarch was directly killed. Patriarch, the Mirror Moon Tower's master is not in the city, the elder said in a low voice. Just like that, the last straw was ruthlessly destroyed. What was the origin of the youth before them? Even the Mirror Moon Tower's master fled when she heard the news. She was not in the city, and anyone could tell that it was just an excuse. However, Su Yuliang never imagined that his army would be defeated like a landslide. His Su family's momentum was gone. I never thought that my Su family would suffer such a calamity and be directly annihilated like this. I can't accept this, Su Yuliang let out a long sigh. Patriarch, let's fight it out with him. No matter how strong he is, he's only one person. What's there to be arrogant about? A brave guard stood out and said. At this moment, loyalty and righteousness sounded very grating. Fight it out. What did they have to fight it out with? Since he dared to come alone and turn the Su family upside down, they should know that the Su family was simply no match for him. You. What's your name? Who exactly did my Su family lose to? Su Yuliang said as he stared at Li Zongjiu in front of him. Li family, Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu said. Su Yuliang also kept repeating this name. In the end, he trembled as he took out a jade token. This jade token represented the mining rights of the Xian Yuan ore. It was issued by the Shengyan dynasty. Whoever could obtain this token would have the mining rights of the Xian Yuan ore. However, this token was in his hand. Whether he could keep it or not would depend on his own ability. Anyway, the dynasty only looked at this token. There were even some black ores that were directly mined without a token. If they were not discovered, it would be fine. However, if they were discovered, they would be directly arrested and all their property confiscated. Therefore, the risk was very high. Everything in the Shengyan dynasty belonged to the Shengyan dynasty. Everything had to be reported to the higher-ups and put on records. Unless you could own your own land. Patriarch, you can't. Patriarch, you can't. I'd rather die in battle than hand over the Xian Yuan ore. Some elders and deacons of the family tried to persuade him. Their eyes were filled with hatred for Li Zongjiu. Of course, if these people were really sent to their deaths, they believed that not many of them would be willing to do so. All of you, shut up. My Su family was able to start over from scratch. Today, we can do it all over again. Li Zongjiu, this time, my Su family admits defeat. This Xian Yuan ore belongs to you. Then, the jade token that the Xian Yuan ore belonged to was directly thrown to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu reached out and caught it. He turned around and threw it to Bai Luoxue, who was behind him. Bai Luoxue couldn't believe everything in front of her eyes. She actually obtained it so easily. It was easy to say, but in reality, it wasn't easy at all. It's true. Bai Luoxue said. I'll give you 2 days to evacuate everyone. As for the other 70 million gold coins, I'll come back next month to collect them. Chapter 96. Li Zongjiu was a man of his words. Since he wanted the compensation of 70 million gold coins, he was truly going to take 70 million gold coins. This was no joke. Upon hearing Li Zongjiu's words, Su Yuliang felt as if his teeth had been shattered and swallowed back into his stomach. No matter what, because of Li Zongjiu's appearance today, his Su family's 30 years of hard work had all turned into nothingness in an instant. There was no way for them to make a comeback. If they did not follow the rules in Soaring Cloud City, it was extremely likely that they would be beaten back to their original state, or even completely eliminated. With the Su family's strength, they were able to gather 70 million gold coins. However, if they were to do so, it would be a huge blow to the Su family's vitality. What was the point of their hard work? It was to earn more money. Li Zongjiu and Bai Luoxue once again rode on the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle and soared into the sky, leaving Soaring Cloud City. The matter of the Su family must have received a lot of attention. Based on the situation of the Su family just now, it seemed like they had been dealt with by someone. This golden-winged blue-tailed eagle was clearly looking for trouble. No one knew what kind of price the Su family had paid in the end. It was difficult for outsiders to know. However, it would not be long before the Su family's painful loss would be immediately known by the other factions in the city. Even the death of the ancestor had to be kept a secret. As for the other 2 Yuan general experts, they had to hurry and save them if they could. Otherwise, their Su family would really be unable to recover from this setback. With this jade token, this Huang Yuan ore should not be a problem. Whether or not we can protect it will depend on your Bai family. Li Zongjiu said. He could not leave everything to Li Zongjiu. If that was the case, the Bai family would be useless. Li Zongjiu could only step in and lead this matter onto the right path. At the same time, he could also remove some of the obstacles that were not very strong, so as to speed up their progress. Otherwise, if they kept waiting like this, how long would they have to wait before they could succeed? It was easy for Li Zongjiu to strengthen himself. He only needed to find a place to hide in the mountains and cultivate for 40 to 50 years. Then, he would be able to recover at least 50 to 60% of his cultivation. Even Li Zongjiu had a clear grasp of the general trend of the future. He knew which force to rely on and which sect to join. However, this was only enough to make Li Zongjiu stronger. He wanted to make the whole family stronger. That was to increase the overall strength of the clan. Regardless of whether it was financial resources or the level of origin power, they had to increase in a straight line. This was a family. In the Shengyan dynasty, there were some millennium-old families that even primitive emperors did not dare to provoke. These families were Li Zongjiu's target. Not only was he a millennium-old family, but he also wanted to surpass them. Don't worry. My Bai family is not useless. Bai Luoxue said. Although this was a challenge, and the speed of his footsteps was unimaginably fast, he didn't even have time to stop and rest. But only in this way could one's strength continue to break through. To become a top existence. It was never easy to build a strong family. Even in the situation where her parents had stopped for so long, if she could succeed, then it would be something that would truly prove herself. Alright, I'm going to cultivate. Li Zongjiu said. In the Su family, there were many blood pearls that were refined, and these blood pearls were filled with yuan energy. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu's origin power was of the fire attribute, just like his father. Later on, by chance, he awakened the wood attribute, which allowed Li Zongjiu to become a decent alchemist. Now that he was reborn, Li Zongjiu had already mastered the heavenly void divine form record, which was considered a great cheat. And now, Li Zongjiu's origin power attribute seemed to be more towards the blood demon attribute. This was a very strange mutated attribute. Is it because I killed too many people in my previous life? If the blood demon attribute is cultivated to the later stage, it is very likely to be devoured by the murderous aura. Li Zongjiu thought in his heart. Therefore, he wanted to suppress the blood demon aura in his body so that it would not be so arrogant. The only way to do that was to cultivate his mental strength in advance. Only then would he be able to control his own strength and control his own origin power. The power of the blood pearls poured into Li Zongjiu's body. Li Zongjiu suddenly felt a rather exuberant feeling, and the aura of his body immediately shook. Even the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle could not help but tremble. When Li Zongjiu's blood demon aura erupted, it would definitely reach a shocking level. This proved that Li Zongjiu was hiding a murderous god in the depths of his heart. The golden-winged blue-tailed eagle could not help but guess in its heart. Although it was a origin beast, it also had a brain. It could think things through and distinguish between actions. The only thing was that it could not speak human language. Just like humans, humans could not speak human language. Two people and a bird circled in the sky close to 10,000 meters, passing through countless layers of clouds. Facing the last ray of sunset, they finally returned to Luoxia City. Presumably, this was the most legendary period of time that Bai Luoxue had experienced. Apart from the time spent on the journey, Li Zongjiu was alone with a bird. It had not been more than 2 hours since they killed their way into the Su family. They did not even have time to drink a cup of tea. In just 2 hours, the Su family's efforts over the past 20 to 30 years had all been given up. It seemed very simple, as if they only needed to be powerful. But in fact, Bai Luoxue knew that it was not so simple. If Li Zongjiu had not been pressing them step by step from the beginning, he would have given Su Yuliang and the others a feeling that it was almost impossible for them to turn the tables. No matter how they resisted, they would not have a chance. It seemed that the only thing in front of them was the endless darkness that had cut off all their hope. If it were another person, it would definitely not have such an effect. Also, when Li Zongjiu made a move, he would never let them feel lucky. Every move he made was fatal. There would definitely be casualties when he made a move. This habit seemed to be innate to Li Zongjiu. It was difficult to guess and see through. After returning to the Bai family, Bai Luoxue recalled Li Zongjiu's performance. After a long time, she opened her eyes. There was a trace of shock in her eyes. Invulnerable. After recalling, Bai Luoxue felt that she had sucked in a breath of cold air. Because Li Zongjiu's attack did not give anyone a chance to breathe. Chapter 97. The situation in Luoxia City was stable, but there were many disturbances in the surroundings. In the Northern Medicine Alliance of the Northern Medicine City, Shang Quan's disappearance did not attract much attention. The world was so big, Shang Quan could go wherever she wanted, unless someone went to inform her, and even then, there had to be a certain number of people who received the news. Only then would people pay attention to it. But in fact, there were already people who noticed. However, this matter was temporarily suppressed. The method behind it was unknown to outsiders. Luoxia City was developing steadily. At the Foggy Snow Pill sect, there was also an annual event. This peak test could be considered as a kind of inspection of the cultivation results of the disciples in the past year. If you didn't make much progress in your cultivation this year, but you still won the competition, then you would be punished as well. Because you did not make any progress. If one wanted to become a disciple of this sect, it could be said that one had to work very hard. Otherwise, if one's master felt that one did not strive for improvement and was rather embarrassing, he would directly expel one from the sect. Then, one's life could be considered finished. There won't be any other sects coming to take you in. Even when he returned to his family, he was still harshly despised by others because of this. The sect was also a place where you learned to respect your master. Learning here was also a very important beginning in life. On the Crimson Afterglow Peak, the 50 feet tall stage had already been completed. This was the main arena, and only the disciple who won in the end could represent the 3 main peaks to participate in the competition. Those who could step on the black stone arena were already considered outstanding disciples. On the Long Medicine Peak, in front of the elder who was in charge of registration, there were also many disciples surrounding him. I can't accept it. How could that brat Li Zongjiu directly get a ranking? He didn't even participate in the competition. That's right, there's a conspiracy. Elder, you must explain this to us clearly. Many disciples gathered in front of the elder, surrounding him so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. The message that a sect needed to convey was naturally to announce fairness and impartiality. Even if you wanted to cheat, you could not do it so obviously. But this time, it was too much. Li Zongjiu, a disciple who had just joined the sect for less than a year, had become the #1 disciple of Longherb Peak. Li Zongjiu was the #1 disciple of Longherb Peak. This was a little too much. And most importantly, senior sister Lin Yao, who was ranked 2nd, did not have any reaction at all. But who was Lin Yao? She was the granddaughter of the peak leader. She was beautiful, skilled, and had a strong background. There must be many little puppies following behind her. All of them were standing up for Lin Yao. We refuse to accept this. Our senior sister Lin Yao is in 1st place. What happened to the fair and open competition? Even if I have to be grounded, I will fight for justice for senior sister Lin Yao. These little puppies seem to be using all their strength to cry out for Lin Yao and fight for justice. However, Lin Yao didn't know about it at all. Tomorrow was the official peak competition, and each peak had to hand over 5 disciples to compete in the Black Stone Arena. Elder, we don't want to make things difficult for you. Just ask Li Zongjiu to come out. I will wait for him here. If he can defeat me, I, Wang Bai, will admit defeat without hesitation. Wang Bai. He was the 3rd disciple of Longherb Peak. It was said that Wang Bai also came from Luoxia City, but he was only from a small family. Luoxia City was so big that it was normal for there to be many people. Since Wang Bai had already spoken, the surrounding disciples applauded with all their might. Anyway, it was not their turn to fight. It was already very good for someone to stand up for them. They could just follow behind and watch the show. Wang Bai was not weak in terms of yuan qi cultivation. Moreover, he shone brightly in terms of alchemy. Although most of the disciples on the Long Medicine Peak did not assist in alchemy, they joined the Long Medicine Peak to enjoy the benefits of the elixirs distributed by the Long Medicine Peak. But the talent that Wang Bai displayed was enough to make the elders of Longherb Peak pay attention to him. In the future, he was very likely to become a grade 2 alchemist. Therefore, the words of the other disciples might not carry enough weight, but Wang Bai's words could not be ignored by the elders. Ask Li Zongjiu to come out. Yes, ask him to come out. Ask Li Zongjiu to come out. One by one, they shouted excitedly. Their purpose was to ask Li Zongjiu to come out. They could not tolerate a fellow who had only joined the sect for less than half a year. How could they allow such a thing to happen? Shut up. Just when the crowd was boiling with resentment, a cold voice rang out. Everyone turned around and saw that it was the eldest senior sister whom they had been yearning for day and night. The eldest senior sister had come down from the mountain to gain experience. There was a trace of boldness in her body. She gave off a very refreshing feeling. Those who had been through a lot would do things simply and directly. There would not be the slightest sloppiness. Because they knew that once they were sloppy, it was very likely that they would lose their lives. This is the sect's decision. I, Lin Yao, also acknowledge Li Zongjiu's strength. If you want to drive him out, then you have to defeat me first. Lin Yao stood out and said. Li Zongjiu was the savior of Lin Yao and her grandfather. Although she didn't know the details, Lin Yao had been to the Li mansion once. She knew the situation in the Li mansion. It was definitely not that simple. This Li Zongjiu could only be more terrifying than she imagined. Seeing that the eldest senior sister stood up for Li Zongjiu, this was incredible. Those little puppies all widened their eyes and looked at their senior sister in disbelief. How is this possible? Who exactly is Li Zongjiu? How dare he be so arrogant? Even the eldest senior sister was speaking up for him. What did this kid do to deserve this? How could he have the eldest senior sister stand up for him? Make way, I'm here to sign in. Just as everyone was dumbstruck, another voice rang out. This voice sounded very young and unfamiliar. It was a voice that was rarely heard. The person squeezed in front of the window. The elder looked at the disciple in front of him. He could not help but ask. The competition is already over. Why are you here to sign in? Oh, it's Lin Sung who told me to sign in directly. Lin Sung. You. How dare you call the Peak Master by his name? What's your name? Li Zongjiu. The elder was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. This disciple who came out of nowhere actually dared to call the Peak Master by his name so arrogantly. If they did not teach him a lesson, people would think that the Long Medicine Peak had no manners. However, after hearing Li Zongjiu's words, the elder's eyes suddenly widened. You're Li Zongjiu. At that instant, countless gazes landed on Li Zongjiu's figure. These gazes contained different emotions and colors. Chapter 98. Li Zongjiu. What does this mean? Li Zongjiu had just returned to Hechangyao Peak when he remembered that he wanted to enter the foggy snow valley to cultivate for a few days. Therefore, he had to sign in before he could participate in the competition. Only by winning could he enter. This was the rule. Even Lin Sung couldn't open the back door. If Li Zongjiu could defeat the sect master of the Foggy Snow Pill sect, then it would be possible. In such a large sect, sometimes, one person's words were not enough to make the final call. It was possible to play some tricks in the middle. Therefore, Li Zongjiu also came in person to participate in the competition between children. However, Li Zongjiu didn't look very friendly when he looked at these people. Li Zongjiu. He is Li Zongjiu. Lin Yao saw Li Zongjiu in front of her. This Li Zongjiu's behavior looked very relaxed and natural. Even under the gaze of so many people, he still didn't show the slightest bit of nervousness. His clothes were also very simple and neat. However, from the looks of it, he looked just like an ordinary young man. Even in this sect, he would be considered a very decent disciple. Such a disciple would basically not have any big changes or shocking actions. He would just live a normal life. However, the Li family of Luoxia City was really a crouching tiger and hidden dragon. Therefore, Lin Yao was surprised. If Li Zongjiu didn't say her name, Lin Yao wouldn't have guessed that the person in front of her was the person who saved her grandfather and her life. You are Li Zongjiu, right? I am your senior brother Wang Bai. Wang Bai pushed away the disciple in front of him like a crazy gorilla and came in front of Li Zongjiu. Do you want to fight? Li Zongjiu asked coldly. He wasn't stupid. These people gathered here one after another. If they weren't here to cause trouble, were they here to line up and treat you to a meal? Playing dumb was Li Zongjiu's style. What's more, there was no reason for Li Zongjiu to play dumb with these people in front of him. You've got guts. That's right, today I'm here to challenge you. If you can defeat me, then you'll have the qualifications to be ranked first. Otherwise, even if senior sister Lin Yao protects you, you'll never be able to sit firmly in this position. We'll never accept this. Wang Bai raised his head and puffed out his chest as if he was standing at the peak of morality. Now, even if Lin Yao came forward, there was nothing she could do. Lin Yao? Who is it? But if you want to fight, can we start now? Li Zongjiu said. Who was Lin Yao? You're a disciple of Long-Herb Peak, but you don't even know senior sister Lin Yao's name. Such a disciple was simply disgraceful. But Wang Bai also heard Li Zongjiu's words. Since he accepted the challenge, then everything was fine. Wait till I kick your ass in front of everyone, in front of senior sister Lin Yao. At that time, senior sister Lin Yao will know who is the best match for her on this Long-Herb Peak, the one who can follow senior sister Lin Yao's footsteps the most. Since you're ready, then prepare to die. Wang Bai roared, then took off his shirt, revealing his firm chest muscles. No need, Li Zongjiu wanted to tell Wang Bai not to bother, but seeing that Wang Bai had already taken off his shirt, he let it go. No need for what? Nothing, you do it. Li Zongjiu waved his hand. He actually asked him to attack first. As the saying goes, the one who strikes first gains the advantage. Unless you have absolute confidence in winning, then you can boast. Otherwise, if you let others attack first and then defeated you in the end, wouldn't you lose face? You're courting death. Wang Bai was more or less at the level of a second senior brother. But now he was provoked by Li Zongjiu, who clearly didn't put him in his eyes. Then I'll use my strength to show you what true strength is. People like you who go through the back door and try to force your way into the rankings are all trash. Wang Bai roared and pounced on Li Zongjiu. Circulating the Yuan energy in his body, Wang Bai had already reached the 9th grade of the Yuan realm. One must know that Li Sheng was only at the 6th grade of the Yuan realm, but he was already considered a very good genius and was carefully nurtured by Lu Shun. But this Wang Bai in front of him had actually reached the 9th grade of the Yuan realm. As expected of someone who had gone down the mountain to train for a period of time. His strength was indeed different. The surrounding disciples were shocked by the aura that Wang Bai displayed. Compared to the previous battle, senior brother Wang Bai's aura seemed to have risen. It seemed like he had made another breakthrough in his strength. This was truly inconceivable. Given Wang Bai's valiant momentum, it would not be difficult for him to win glory for Long Medicine Peak. Go, beat that arrogant brat to the ground. Beat him up. Even Lin Yao held back from attacking because she also wanted to see if Li Zongjiu was really that capable. Or rather, Lin Yao wanted to see how capable Li Zongjiu was. Slap! Li Zongjiu's figure moved. The moment Wang Bai pounced on him, he had already moved. Wang Bai swung his fist with all his might, trying to send Li Zongjiu flying. However, his fist was like cotton candy in front of Li Zongjiu. It did not have the slightest bit of power. Therefore, Li Zongjiu reached out and grabbed Wang Bai's wrist. He took advantage of the opportunity to throw Wang Bai forward. Wang Bai's figure directly rose into the air. He did not know that he had the potential to be as light as a swallow. Immediately, Wang Bai's figure rolled down the mountain. Fuck, help! Wang Bai was like a rolling watermelon, rolling down from the top of the mountain. During this process, he was actually unable to free his hands to stop his body. Because Li Zongjiu had used a little bit of strength in this move, Wang Bai was like a rolling cylinder. It was difficult for him to stop while he was rolling. Senior brother is in danger. Hurry up and save senior brother. When they saw that Wang Bai was about to roll to the foot of the mountain, a few disciples from the same lineage as Wang Bai immediately chased after him. Why did senior brother Wang Bai fly down by himself? Everyone felt incredulous. In their opinion, senior brother Wang Bai flew down by himself. How could he do such a thing? Could it be that senior brother Wang Bai was paid by Li Zongjiu to put on an act? However, looking at the way he was rolling down, it seemed like he was really falling down. Suddenly, these people were also surprised. Although this mountain was not very high, rolling down it would take at least half of one's life. If they did not stop him in time, he might really die. Can I sign in now? Li Zongjiu came in front of the elder and asked. Chapter 99. Even the elder was stunned by what he saw. After all, even he couldn't see Li Zongjiu's movements clearly. Oh, come, write your name here. This is your name tag. Do your best in the Black Stone Arena tomorrow. The elder said and gave him some words of encouragement. Of course, this was just a casual remark. After all, Long Medicine Peak wasn't focused on fighting, so it wasn't the focus of the peak test. The two main battle peaks were the ones that everyone was truly paying attention to. It was said that the most monstrous one was Mo Chu from Fierce Peak. Mo Chu's talent was monstrous. Within half a month of entering the sect, he had already become a Yuan practitioner. His cultivation speed soared like a rocket. Half a year later, he had already completed the foundation of the Yuan practitioner level. Ordinary disciples would need at least 2 years to complete this step. In Long Herb Peak, even a genius like Lin Yao had to spend 9 months to pass the novice level. Thereafter, her cultivation at the Yuan master level had to be steady and steady. After Mo Chu had broken through the Yuan master level, his talent hadn't been depleted. It was as if his talent hadn't been used up. It was still erupting. He had been triumphantly advancing. In less than 3 years after entering the sect, he had already become a grade 7 Yuan master expert. Lin Yao's current strength was only at grade 4 Yuan master. Although Lin Yao's strength was stronger than Elder Lu Shun's alchemy skills were far above Lin Yao's. To become an elder of Long Medicine Peak, one's Yuan Qi level was secondary. It was enough if one could barely pass. However, one's alchemy skills had to pass. There was no doubt about this. Mo Chu, a grade 7 Yuan master expert, would be able to become a Yuan general expert after 3 to 5 years of cultivation. To be able to become an elder of Fog Snow Alchemy sect in less than 8 years, he was definitely a monstrous disciple. No one knew where Mo Chu's future would stop. Well, does the champion of the peak test have the right to challenge an elder? Li Zongjiu suddenly asked. The first place had the same qualification as the third place. Both of them could enter the Fog Snow Valley to cultivate. However, the alchemy pills given to him were different. As the champion, he would be given a high-grade 2 alchemy pill to assist him in his cultivation. It was even possible for him to break through to the next level in a short period of 3 days. But in reality, there was a hidden rule. That was, if this disciple could challenge a Yuan general ranked elder and win, then he would be able to do so. That way, they would be able to enjoy the same treatment as the elders. He cultivated in the Fog Snow Valley for 4 whole days. All of this added up to a total of 7 days. In other words, Li Zongjiu could stay in the Misty Snow Valley for 7 days. But no one had ever been able to reach such a level. After all, this elder was a Yuan general. Of course, there were also many people who tried to challenge him. After all, this was one of the rare few who could receive personal guidance from a Yuan general level elder. The reason for this rule was to give these disciples an unsurpassable goal. This was to let them know that there was no end to learning. And with Li Zongjiu's tone, it was clear that he wanted to challenge the elder. Of course you can challenge an elder. If you win, not only will you be able to enjoy 7 days of cultivation in the Fog Snow Valley, but you will also be given 2 high-grade 2 alchemy pills, the Sky Wind Energy Gathering pills. When the disciples heard this, they were so shocked that their jaws dropped. I can't believe there's such a thing. That's a good move. However, it should be impossible for him to defeat an elder. Someone else said. It didn't seem so easy to achieve. The elders were all Yuan general-level powerhouses after all. The elder who was going to challenge him was not an elder from Longherb Peak. Instead, it was the elders of the Battle Peak. Those people could be said to have cultivated specifically for battle. Even the techniques that they usually cultivated were some real killing techniques. If they could reach the position of an elder, then they would be even more extraordinary. What kind of disciple could defeat an elder? No one knew, but no senior brother or senior sister in history had ever succeeded. Therefore, very few people knew about this hidden rule. The elder was a little surprised that Li Zongjiu knew about it. Li Zongjiu had only joined the sect for half a year. Even this peak test was his first time participating in it. Li Zongjiu certainly couldn't tell him that he had transmigrated back. But since this rule existed, it was fine. After all, so much time had passed, and some things had changed since he was reborn in this life. This was clearly a different world, so it might be affected. Li Zongjiu quickly signed his name on the book and took out his name tag. He had to bring this name tag to the battle tomorrow. It was Wang Bai, who had rolled down from the peak. Fortunately, he had only suffered some superficial wounds. With Longherb Peak's ability, he could easily get back on his feet after rubbing some medicine on it. It was also because everyone was on the same side, and Li Zongjiu treated these people as children, so he didn't kill them directly when he attacked. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be enough for Li Zongjiu to kill in half a day. Wang Bai, who was lying on the bed, was also howling in pain. Li Zongjiu had also been listening to the howls coming from the opposite house for the entire night. Most of the Longherb Peak's disciples' dormitories were gathered together. Even in Fog Snow Elixir sect, there were frequent appearances of meta beasts. Therefore, it was safer to gather them together. As for Li Zongjiu, he was just meditating. He wasn't moved by external things. At the same time, he was also studying the ancient golden tyrannical body art. The ancient golden tyrannical body art came from the golden dragon tattoo, which was formed by the golden dragon sovereign's dragon soul power. If that's the case, there must be a primordial art hidden in the other dragon souls. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but feel excited when he thought of this. The heavenly void gods record that he had obtained in his previous life was only a grade 7 primordial art. Even if he were to cultivate it again, he would at most reach the level of his previous life, but he wouldn't be able to surpass it. The exact same ending awaited Li Zongjiu. This wasn't the ending that Li Zongjiu wanted. In this life, he had to find a way to break through the Saint Realm. I created the Prime Soul Fusion Pill in a vain attempt to fuse the 4 dragon souls. In that case, I was wrong. The dragon souls have already been formed, so it's useless for me to fuse them. It's just power. But what if I cultivate the primordial arts of the 4 dragon souls at the same time? With this thought in mind, Li Zongjiu's divine sense sunk as he immersed himself into his yuan bead. Bai Longwen, what are you hiding? Chapter 100. Li Zongjiu unleashed his mental energy. All of it fused into the origin bead. It awakened the white dragon soul. Immediately, Li Zongjiu felt that his mental energy seemed to be bathing in an extremely warm environment. In this environment, Li Zongjiu's mental energy also felt like it was being slowly caressed, which could achieve a calm and focused effect. In this spiritual world of nothingness, he continued to explore. He felt the existence of the power within. However, Li Zongjiu did not find any origin bead even after roaming around in this vast and mighty mental energy. Could it be that my mental energy realm is not high enough? Li Zongjiu thought as he retreated. After searching for a long time without any results, Li Zongjiu changed his method. If I use the aura of the golden dragon soul or the blood dragon soul, I might be able to find something in this white dragon soul. Li Zongjiu thought. After all, Li Zongjiu belonged to the human clan. If he used the aura of the human clan to pry into the secrets of the dragon clan, it would naturally be difficult to succeed. Therefore, Li Zongjiu also tried to imitate the aura of the golden dragon soul, and once again entered the white dragon soul's world. This time, there was indeed an unusual feeling. When Li Zongjiu descended once again, he clearly felt a sense of familiarity. At the same time, a origin bead also gradually appeared in Li Zongjiu's mind. White God Inscription. Li Zongjiu's eyes shone with a bright light. White God Inscription. This was the origin bead found in the white dragon soul. When Li Zongjiu finished reading the entire text, he was immediately shocked by the contents of the text. This white God inscription, above the content of the 7th grade inscription, there is actually this half of text sealed. At this moment, Li Zongjiu seemed to see hope. However, Li Zongjiu could not read this half of text no matter how hard he tried. 7.5. This white God Fu is actually a level 7.5 mental energy origin formula. Li Zongjiu was excited. Level 7.5. This was already beyond the level 7 realm, beyond the sovereign realm. The White Dragon clan was worthy of being called the most ancient bloodline. It was so powerful. However, in order to obtain the last half of the text, Li Zongjiu needed to raise his mental strength to a certain level. Otherwise, it would be difficult to succeed. But for Li Zongjiu, he was not in a hurry. As long as he could find it, then Li Zongjiu would have the opportunity and sufficient time to free you. As long as you existed, then it would not be a problem. The only difference was the speed of the process. Although the last half of the text was difficult to read, the White God Fu itself was an extremely powerful mind cultivation origin formula. Since Li Zongjiu wanted to break through the realm of his previous life, he had to start a new cultivation now. This White God Fu was Li Zongjiu's opportunity. That night, Li Zongjiu tried to cultivate the White God Fu. While Li Zongjiu was cultivating the White Divine Fu, he could clearly feel that his White Dragon origin spirit seemed to have become even more powerful at this moment. A wave of energy was also gradually recovering. After a night of cultivation, Li Zongjiu's mental strength had improved a lot. According to the current standard, Li Zongjiu's mental strength was equivalent to a level 2 spirit master. However, if he used the bonus of the White Dragon origin spirit, it would be equivalent to a level 3 spirit master. This was not difficult. The thunderous sound of the bell had already resounded above the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. On this day, all the disciples were incomparably excited. Those who represented their peaks to participate in the battle were all in high spirits. On the blazing peak. At the highest point of the mountain, a figure was sitting cross-legged. When the first sound wave of the bell brushed past his body, the clothes on his body swayed like ripples. After feeling this movement, the person slowly opened his eyes, which were filled with a trace of arrogance. At this moment, he was at the peak where he could overlook the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. This year is already the 3rd year since I entered the sect. Who in the Fog Snow Alchemy sect can be my opponent? Lin Yao, when I become the future sect master candidate, I don't believe that you won't be moved by me. Mo Chu stood up. The current Mo Chu was exactly 20 years old. He was the same age as Lin Yao. However, at this moment, Mo Chu's eyes were not filled with the struggle and fighting spirit of an ordinary youth. What he possessed was more of the ambition hidden deep in his heart, which was finally about to erupt. This kind of hidden tyranny was the most terrifying existence. As Mo Chu stood up, his ink-like clothes fluttered in the wind. The wind at the top of the mountain was really bone-chilling. Mo Chu directly faced the cold wind as he leaped down from the mountain peak that was a few thousand feet tall. From this position, he could also land on the black stone arena. The black stone arena was bustling with people. Li Zongjiu also followed the elders of the Long Herb Peak to the Crimson Afterglow Peak. The disciples of the Crimson Afterglow Peak were already prepared to receive them. Although they were all from the same sect, there was still relatively little interaction between them. Under normal circumstances, they would cultivate on their own peaks. Usually, they would only meet each other when there was an activity or a sect gathering. It was Li Zongjiu's first time on the Crimson Afterglow Peak. Not to mention other things, the soil of the Crimson Afterglow Peak gave off a fiery feeling. The fire elemental energy here was rampant. Such a place was also advantageous for disciples with fire elemental energy. Li Zongjiu walked in front. The one leading the way was the elder in charge of signing in yesterday. Even Lin Yao followed behind Li Zongjiu. When they entered the Black Stone Arena, Li Zongjiu could feel the excitement of the Long Herb Peak disciples behind him. When the mountain-like arena appeared in front of them, they would be accompanied by the loud cheers of their fellow disciples. At this moment, they seemed to be filled with glory. Young people will always be young people. What's there to be excited about? Li Zongjiu said with disdain. Li Zongjiu, who was used to life and death situations, was completely unmoved by this situation. It could even be said that he didn't feel anything at all. Look, the one descending from the sky is the genius disciple of the blazing peak, Mo Chu. Someone shouted loudly. Everyone also looked towards the sky. Suddenly, they saw a black figure descending from the sky. When this figure landed, it was like a ferocious black eagle. He's coming towards us. The faces of Wang Bai and the others changed. If they fell from such a high height, the people who were hit by them would all die instantly without any hesitation. How could this person not have any sense of safety? Li Zongjiu frowned. He saw Mo Chu land in front of the Long Herb Peak disciples. Boom! That berserk aura also spread out, causing people's hearts to involuntarily tremble. This aura was truly powerful. Wang Bai was originally confident that he could perform well in this arena. But now, when he saw Mo Chu, he felt that he couldn't lift his head. In front of Mo Chu, Wang Bai's strength was not worth mentioning. Needless to say, those who couldn't stand Wang Bai. Mo Chu looked at Wang Bai and the others like a king. Finally, his gaze fell on Lin Yao. You've improved a lot. Chapter 101. Mo Chu's words made Lin Yao feel uncomfortable. It was as if an elder was giving advice to a junior. Junior brother Mo Chu, watch your words, Lin Yao said as she glanced at Mo Chu. According to seniority, Mo Chu had to address Lin Yao as senior sister. After all, Lin Yao had joined the sect earlier and was born as a member of the sect. How could an ordinary person compare to her? Furthermore, as the senior sister of Long Herb Peak, how could she be taken advantage of by someone from Fierce Peak? When Mo Chu heard this, he laughed heartily. After today, senior sister Lin Yao, you can't talk to me like this. Junior brothers of Long Herb Peak are welcome to visit Fierce Peak in the future. You're the Peak Master. Visit your place. Li Zongjiu abruptly blurted out a sentence. Mo Chu was obviously treating himself as someone important. If he wanted to act tough, Li Zongjiu wouldn't mind if he walked further away. However, since he wanted to act tough in front of Li Zongjiu, then Li Zongjiu wouldn't be polite to him. Mo Chu said directly. The smile on Mo Chu's face froze. Then, his relaxed expression turned cold and gloomy. When they turned around, they realized that there was a young disciple behind them. Li Zongjiu looked even younger than them, and he looked extremely unfamiliar. They had only seen him a few times, which meant that this guy hadn't been in the sect for long. How dare he talk to Mo Chu in such a tone when he had just joined the sect? This kid must have not figured out the situation yet. How dare you talk to me like this? Do you know who I am? Mo Chu snorted coldly and questioned. Let me tell you, if you look at me like this again, I'll beat you up until you can't even shit. Li Zongjiu was extremely displeased when he saw Mo Chu's gaze. He pointed at Mo Chu and spoke without any trace of politeness. Li Zongjiu's words were a little vulgar. However, in front of the disciples of Long Medicine Peak, they still felt extremely domineering. This was the way to go. He wanted to give Mo Chu a hard slap. However, no one knew what the outcome would be. Lin Yao's eyes widened as she stared at Li Zongjiu. At this moment, she finally understood what was so special about Li Zongjiu. That was, Li Zongjiu was not bound by the rules at all. These words could be said to be completely unrestrained, but it gave people a feeling of open-mindedness and carefreeness. However, he was open-minded. Mo Chu was enraged. "You're courting death." Mo Chu's eyes were ablaze with flames. The aura on his body burst out and a powerful aura rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was also prepared to beat up the person in front of him. However, the elder from the Long Herb Peak had already walked over to them. "Presumptuous! How dare you attack without permission? Whatever grudges you have, let's talk about it in the arena." Although Mo Chu was the pride of the sect, the elder was still an elder of Long Herb Peak. He was one of them. Therefore, Mo Chu retracted his aura after hearing his angry shout. "You're lucky to have survived." Mo Chu tidied his clothes and said angrily. If he really attacked, he could beat Li Zongjiu until he became an idiot. "What an idiot!" Li Zongjiu said. He disdained to fight with such a kid. Otherwise, with his evil lord's temper, he would have already refined him into a blood bead. Hearing Li Zongjiu's curses, Mo Chu clenched his fists so tightly that they looked like crispy peas. He wanted to turn around and cripple Li Zongjiu. However, the elder was here and today was an important day. It wasn't a good time to cause trouble. The sect master and the other peak masters would be here as well. It would be difficult to explain the situation. "Well done, Li Zongjiu." After Mo Chu walked far away, Wang Bai was the first to clap. He gave Li Zongjiu a thumbs up. Li Zongjiu was definitely the first disciple who dared to confront Mo Chu. "What's wrong with that? You bunch of cowards," Li Zongjiu said disdainfully. These kids were really useless. How could they sacrifice their lives for their family and country in the future? "We'll prepare more fruits for you later. Don't worry about it today." "That's right, junior brother Zongjiu. Don't worry. We won't let you miss out on your lessons. We'll give you a copy of our notes and you can recuperate in peace." It seemed like they had already started preparing for Li Zongjiu's injuries. This made Li Zongjiu want to give each of them a slap to let them know why the slap was so loud. This small disturbance was like an accelerant before the start of the competition. It had the effect of livening up the atmosphere, which made people feel very happy. The noisy venue was soon filled with people. The contestants had to be present. The other disciples would also come to watch on time. After all, this was the honor of their own cultivation peak. If they didn't show up and show their support, how could they cultivate a sense of collective honor? Above the crimson afterglow peak, the wind and clouds gathered. Mo Chu returned to the camp of Fierce Peak. When the elders of Fierce Peak saw that Mo Chu seemed to have accumulated a lot of resentment, they couldn't help but feel puzzled. What is it that made you so angry?" Qin Lai, the elder of Fierce Peak, asked. As the great elder of Blazing Peak, he represented the strongest force on Blazing Peak. After all, the existence of the Peak Master was only symbolic. Of course, the strength of the Peak Master was undeniably strong. However, most of the time, the great elder would be the one to make the move when the time came. Could it be that the old fox from Crimson Afterglow Peak is pressuring you? Qin Lai suddenly had an impulse to stand up for Mo Chu. Like his name, his temper was also quite irritable. It was obvious that he wanted to fight with the elders of Crimson Afterglow Peak. The old fox that Qin Lai was talking about. He was also a competitor for many years. The great elder of Crimson Afterglow Peak, Yan Beihan. This was clearly a fire elemental formula, yet it just had to have such a cold name. This made Qin Lai feel extremely displeased. However, displeasure was displeasure. As an old friend of many years, the friendship between them was still very deep. However, in such a peaceful era, a real competition was needed to promote a better environment. No. It's not Elder Yen. It's an ignorant kid from Longherb Peak. Elder, don't worry, I will settle this myself. Mo Chu said calmly. Longherb Peak. Since when did Longherb Peak become so stubborn? Qin Lai couldn't help but frown and say. The Longherb Peak was an important part of the Snow Mist Pill sect. Most of the pills provided were refined by the disciples of the Longherb Peak. However, the disciples of the Battle Peak had always complained that there were not enough pills and that there were too few of them. If there were more elixirs, their strength might increase even more. Of course, these grievances didn't dare to spread to Longherb Peak. After all, these alchemists were each more arrogant than the other. After all, alchemists were extremely popular. The people of Longherb Peak usually kept a low profile. When participating in such a competition, most of the time, they would interact with each other. However, there were still some people who really wanted to stand out. Compared to the people of Battle Peak, the gap was still quite big. Boom! A ray of light shot up to the sky. On the high platform, there were a few seats. 3 Peak Masters. The sect master of Foggy Snow Pellet Sect. There was also a Supreme Elder who flew over together with him. Following the appearance of these people, the disciples in the crowd gave them a warm round of applause. Chapter 102. Ignite the Fire Beacon. The Misty Snow Pellet Sect Master waved his hand and ignited the Saint Flame on the Saint Flame Peak 1,000 meters away. This was a display of the Misty Snow Pellet Sect's strength. The Sect Master is actually so powerful. Li Zongjiu was also a little surprised. Judging from the performance just now, the white-robed old man's cultivation had actually reached the origin ancestor realm. It was no wonder that no one dared to offend the Misty Snow Pellet Sect even though it was located in a small corner. In addition to the strength of the Sect Master, the Supreme Elder who had been sitting beside him and looking like he was about to fall asleep seemed to be quite powerful as well. It was no wonder that the Misty Snow Pellet Sect could develop freely with such an expert overseeing it. This was the true strength of a sect. As the fire beacon burned, it symbolized the prosperity of the sect. It was an auspicious sign. The peak test begins. The rules of the competition. Falling to the ground means defeat. Losing consciousness means defeat. Surrendering means defeat. There are no restrictions. An elder of the Crimson Afterglow Peak held a long scroll with a long list of names on it. There would be a total of 15 people in the competition, and there would be a vacancy in each round. There would even be situations where people from the same sect would fight each other. The first round, Zhang Yongzhe of the Ru Lai Peak versus Lin Yao of the Longherb Peak. Lin Yao was actually the first to go up. This was somewhat unexpected. However, there were also benefits to being the first to go up. At the very least, she wouldn't be affected by the situation later on. If she saw that everyone was as vigorous as a dragon, she would be more or less affected psychologically. Therefore, the benefits of being the first to go up were obvious. She wouldn't be affected by other situations. Senior Sister Lin Yao, go. Go Senior Sister. The Longherb Peak will win. The disciples of the Longherb Peak cheered loudly. Even Zhang Yongzhe of the Ru Lai Peak had a bitter expression on his face. Everyone in the Ru Lai Peak knew that Lin Yao was the target of Mo Chu's pursuit. If he injured her, Mo Chu wouldn't let him go. Of course, with Zhang Yongzhe's strength, he might not be able to reach that level. It would depend on each other's ability to fight with Lin Yao. Li Zongjiu sat in his seat. He had no interest in the competition in front of him. Therefore, he closed his eyes and tried to cultivate his white god Fu in his mind. The cultivation of the white god bestowment mantra required years of accumulation. The elder in charge of the Longherb Peak was extremely nervous at this moment. After all, Lin Yao was their hope. Whether or not they could enter the top 5 would depend on her. As for Wang Bai, he would probably be thrown out as soon as he went on stage. There was really nothing to look forward to. What about Li Zongjiu? She had gotten in through the back door and was gilded with gold. He didn't know what kind of relationship Li Zongjiu had with the peak master that he could receive such special treatment. Therefore, there was no hope at all. With such an attitude, you still want to obtain first place and fight against that elder? Daydreaming? Li Zongjiu was still dozing off in the middle of a bloody battle. Anyone who saw this would be very angry and unhappy. They would want to slap this Li Zongjiu awake. However, there was no need for that. It was more important to watch the competition now. Lin Yao's strength seems to have improved a lot. It seems that she has gained a lot from this experience. Chu Ao, the sect master of the Foggy Snow Pill sect, said. Although his name was Ao Ran, he was already past the age where he was arrogant. It's alright. You don't even focus on refining pills. You only know how to be competitive. Lin Sung shook his head. On the other hand, Chu Aoran laughed out loud. Soon after, his eyes turned gloomy. How's the matter with the Black Zen sect going? The Black Zen sect had kidnapped Lin Yao and even directly controlled an elder of the Long Herb Peak. This made Chu Aoran very angry. He actually dared to extend his hand to the Snow Pill sect. They were simply tired of living. I killed some and some escaped. However, since there's a traitor in my Long Herb Peak, you should be more careful. Lin Sung said. He, Lin Sung, had disappeared for half a year. He was actually imprisoned by someone and no one knew about it. This kind of thing naturally made people's hair stand on end. We will also pay attention to this matter. I also feel that there's something wrong with some people recently. The peak master of the Crimson Afterglow Peak said. At this moment, there were only a few of them on the high platform. They were the ones who had founded the sect in the first place. The understanding they had during this period was not something that outsiders could understand. This Lin Yao girl won really quickly. Chu Ao Ran suddenly said. Everyone looked over and saw that Lin Yao and Zhang Yongzhe were fighting in close combat. Suddenly, Lin Yao used a whip kick that was as fast as lightning and rushed over. He directly kicked Zhang Yongzhe's chest and sent him flying. Bang! Long Herb Peak, Lin Yao wins. Lin Yao winning this battle could also be said to be very difficult, expending large amounts of essence energy. Without saying a word, she immediately cupped her hands at the referee elder and returned to her seat. She immediately sat down to recover her yuan power. At the same time, Lin Yao glanced at Li Zongjiu. She wanted to see if Li Zongjiu would be interested in her after this battle. What Lin Yao wanted was to show off her strength in front of Li Zongjiu. However, when Lin Yao returned to her seat, she realized that Li Zongjiu was actually sleeping with his eyes closed. He was actually dozing off in such an exciting battle. This made Lin Yao so angry that she gritted her teeth. After all, I'm the great senior sister of Long Herb Peak. How could I not be noticed? You did well. Here's a yuan recovery pill. Quickly consume it to recover your yuan power. Yes, elder. Lin Yao took the pill from the elder's hand and sat down cross-legged to recover her yuan power. However, she was still brooding over Li Zongjiu's disdain for her. This guy, I want to see what you're capable of. Lin Yao thought in her heart. However, the competition was still going on. The first 7 rounds of the competition were quite exciting. Some were lucky and got a bye, while some were unlucky and met Mo Chu of the Fierce Peak or Yang Hongyu, the chief disciple of the Crimson Afterglow Peak. Both of them were the strongest among the strongest. Basically, it was impossible to meet them. At the same time, the yuan power aura they displayed was that of a grade 9 yuan master. Such a young grade 9 yuan master. It was really shocking. However, Mo Chu was younger and had cultivated for a shorter period of time. In terms of potential, he had more advantages. Of course, no one could be sure about the future. After Yang Hongyu's battle ended, his opponent was Wang Bai from Longherb Peak. Wang Bai was defeated honorably. At least he managed to withstand 10 moves from Yang Hongyu. In the end, Wang Bai took the initiative to admit defeat. It was a relatively peaceful battle. After this round of battle, in Longherb Peak, except for Lin Yao who won, everyone else was eliminated. Oh, no. There was still one person alive. That was Li Zongjiu. Even Lin Song was surprised by Li Zongjiu's luck. Wasn't this a little too good? He actually got a walkover. However, in the next round, he could no longer continue to get a bye. There were 7 winners in this round. Including the one who got a bye, there were 8 winners in total. The competition for the top 4 would begin. After the top 4 were determined, one person must be eliminated. Only the top 3 could enjoy the benefits of entering the Fog Snow Valley. There will be an hour's break. The second round will begin in an hour. The Crimson Afterglow Peak Elder said. At the same time, some disciples brought brooms and the like. They came up to clean the black stone arena. For cultivators, it was fine even if they didn't eat for a few days. However, they would still eat some fruits that were cultivated with spirit soil. These were good for their health. Zhao Yuan, the next round will be between you and Li Zongjiu. I want him to be bedridden for at least 3 months. Chapter 103. Mo Chu came in front of Zhao Yuan. Zhao Yuan was ranked 3rd in Rulai Peak. Among the 8 people who made it to the next round, there were 3 people from each of the 2 main peaks who made it to the next round, including Lin Yao and Li Zongjiu. Zhao Yuan's eyes lit up when he heard Mo Chu's words, but he didn't answer. A Vajra elixir. Don't worry, junior brother Mo Chu. Not only will I make him lie in bed for 3 months, but I'll also make him call me father in pain. Zhao Yuan said with a grin. As for why Mo Chu knew about the ranking of the next round, it was none of Zhao Yuan's business. A Vajra elixir was enough for Zhao Yuan to make a move. If he used too much force in the arena, he would be scolded at most. After all, this was the peak test. Once in the arena, one's life and death would be decided by fate. Half an hour quickly passed. Unfortunately, this was the first round. It landed directly on Li Zongjiu's body. The first round, Rulai Peak's Zhao Yuan vs Long Medicine Peak's Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu. The disciples of Long Medicine Peak didn't know how to feel when they watched Li Zongjiu's battle. They were cheering for Li Zongjiu. This guy had indeed gone overboard. He had directly used his connections to get in through the back door and forcibly occupied that spot. This was already very immoral. Moreover, Li Zongjiu was only a disciple who had joined the sect for half a year. It was this guy who had trampled everyone under his feet. The disciples of Long Medicine Peak naturally felt embarrassed. However, Li Zongjiu was now representing Long Medicine Peak. Sigh, I hope he won't lose too badly. The disciples of Long Medicine Peak couldn't help but say. They were also very curious about Li Zongjiu's fate. They didn't expect Li Zongjiu to win. They just hoped that Li Zongjiu wouldn't lose too badly. A person who went through the back door. How could he possibly defeat his opponent? These people were all elite disciples of the Battle Master Peak. Even the people from the other peaks were hoping that Li Zongjiu would be beaten up badly. This was because Li Zongjiu's luck was too good to be able to advance to the top 8. In this way, Li Zongjiu's ranking in the Snow Pill sect was already on the same level as him. A disciple who had joined the sect for less than half a year had directly become one of the top 8 disciples. One could only imagine how much trouble awaited him in the future. However, Li Zongjiu did not seem to realize this. When he was called, then, he slowly opened his eyes and stretched lazily. It was as if he had just woken up from a dream. Please, was this guy not nervous at all? Seeing Li Zongjiu slowly climb up the stage, the surrounding people were simply anxious to death. Even if you're here to dawdle, you should at least pretend to be one. However, Li Zongjiu seemed to have no such thoughts at all as he stood on the stage. Li Zongjiu's opponent was already standing on the stage. Zhao Yuan. On the spectator stand, seeing Li Zongjiu's actions, even Chu Aoran could not help but laugh. Looks like this Li Zongjiu doesn't put Zhao Yuan in his eyes at all. He actually hasn't looked directly at Zhao Yuan until now. Then, Chu Aoran suddenly thought of something and tilted his head to speak to Lin Song. If I remember correctly, this Li Zongjiu seems to be ranked first in the Long Medicine Peak when he was reported. He has only joined the sect for less than half a year. In response to Chu Aoran's question, Lin Song only smiled and shook his head. Sect Master, just continue watching. Looks like you have a lot of confidence in this Li Zongjiu. Chu Aoran said with a smile and did not say anything else. The other two peak masters also looked at Li Zongjiu. Lin Song seemed to hold Li Zongjiu in high regard and wanted to see what Li Zongjiu was capable of. The red flag is on the ground. The match begins. The referee elder said in a deep voice. Then, he threw the red flag into the air. During this process, Li Zongjiu suddenly looked at Zhao Yuan. That idiot gave you a Vajra elixir to beat me, right? Li Zongjiu's lips curled into a cold smile. This smile was filled with an unknown coldness. Anyone who saw this scene would be shocked. How did you know? Zhao Yuan also widened his eyes and looked at Li Zongjiu. This was the deal between him and Mo Chu. How did the person in front of him know about it? It's not difficult, but you might feel more upset later. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. After Zhao Yuan recovered from his initial shock, he calmed down and looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him. Li Zongjiu's young face did not seem threatening at all. Since you already know, don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame Mo Chu. After all, there is no enmity between us. Zhao Yuan said. However, this statement was too naive in Li Zongjiu's eyes. How could there be such a person in this world? There was actually such a naive person. This made Li Zongjiu speechless. Just then, the red flag landed on the ground. In the next second, Zhao Yuan's body released a strong Yuan power aura. Boom! Grade 5 Yuan Master. With such strength, he was already a top expert in Luoxia City. If he couldn't survive in Fog Snow Pill sect, he could directly enter Luoxia City and find a good job. However, such strength was like a pile of trash in front of Li Zongjiu. Junior, fists and legs have no eyes. Be careful. Zhao Yuan immediately let out a roar. His palms immediately released a terrifying fire attribute Yuan power. His hands seemed to be burning. At the same time, the Yuan power around his body continued to gather, causing the temperature in the arena to rise abruptly. Flame-threading palm. He used a grade 2 Yuan skill right off the bat. Seeing this, Lin Yao and the others were furious. These guys were actually so ruthless. How could an ordinary Long Herb Peak disciple withstand such an attack? In the face of Zhao Yuan's blazing palm strike, Yi Zichen was stunned. Li Zongjiu's choice was very simple. He took a step forward and immediately rushed in front of Zhao Yuan. He raised his hand and punched out. This punch looked like a fist used by an ordinary person in a fight. It was even worse than an ordinary person's fist. After all, ordinary people knew how to exert force. However, Li Zongjiu's punch was not only slow and weak, but also lacking in accuracy. Trash. At first, Zhao Yuan thought that Li Zongjiu had some tricks up his sleeve and needed to be careful. However, after Li Zongjiu's attack, he knew that Li Zongjiu's combat experience was very little. In this battle, facing the enemy head-on was the most difficult and unrewarding thing. There was even a possibility of being killed by the opponent. Now, it seemed that there was no need to worry. Just as Zhao Yuan was about to destroy Li Zongjiu's combat power, he realized that Li Zongjiu's figure had unknowingly moved a few steps forward. It was just a few steps, but it directly broke Zhao Yuan's prepared attack rhythm. Not good. Zhao Yuan immediately wanted to adjust his state of mind, but it was too late. Li Zongjiu directly rushed forward with a punch. Bang! A punch smashed into Zhao Yuan's face. Zhao Yuan's entire body was sent flying. Then, with a bang, he flew back dozens of meters. When his body landed, he could barely stand straight. What shocked Zhao Yuan the most was that his body was standing on its own. Not good. Soon, Zhao Yuan saw Li Zongjiu's face with a sinister smile. He immediately had an extremely bad feeling in his heart. Chapter 104. As expected, Li Zongjiu didn't disappoint Zhao Yuan. Another punch landed on Zhao Yuan's face. Although Zhao Yuan reacted, it was already too late by the time he realized what had happened. Bang! Zhao Yuan rolled on the ground for more than 10 meters. Feeling deeply humiliated, Zhao Yuan immediately got up. Wind Fire Shield. Zhao Yuan executed an elemental energy defensive move. Suddenly, a gust of wind and fire yuan energy revolved around Zhao Yuan. This defensive technique was also an extremely common yuan power shield. Only when one's yuan power was able to break through this shield would the technique succeed. Wind Fire Shield, right? Li Zongjiu's figure flashed as he rushed towards the Wind Fire Shield. Yuan energy surged in his palm. At this moment, Li Zongjiu was also displaying his yuan energy cultivation. Grade 1 Yuan Master Realm. Such strength was no threat to Zhao Yuan at all. When Zhao Yuan saw that Li Zongjiu was merely a Tier 1 Yuan Master, he found it ironic that Li Zongjiu was able to suppress him. He had to turn the tables around. I don't believe you can break my Wind Fire Shield. Zhao Yuan was full of confidence. But in the next moment, he couldn't laugh anymore. Li Zongjiu's hand easily penetrated Zhao Yuan's Wind Fire Shield, grabbed Zhao Yuan, and threw him to the ground. Bang! During this process, Zhao Yuan didn't have the slightest strength to resist. Even Zhao Yuan couldn't believe it. How could something like this happen? He couldn't even resist for a while. Bang! 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 The Wind Fire Shield was directly smashed by Li Zongjiu. After stopping, Li Zongjiu threw Zhao Yuan into the sky. Whoosh! Go! A ray of light flew out from Li Zongjiu's hand. This was an attack similar to a Yuan energy bomb. However, an ordinary Yuan Master's Yuan energy bomb could only fly 10 meters away from the body. Li Zongjiu's Yuan energy bomb flew over 30 meters. With a bang, Zhao Yuan was sent flying to the edge of the arena. He hadn't completely rolled out of the arena yet. Zhao Yuan's control of strength was quite good. Li Zongjiu continued walking towards Zhao Yuan. After waking up, Zhao Yuan felt intense pain all over his body. The Yuan energy bomb just now had directly hit Zhao Yuan so hard that he couldn't recover for a long time. When the Yuan Qi bullet hit Zhao Yuan, it split into dozens of Yuan Qi and poured into Zhao Yuan's body. It hit the painful acupoint in Zhao Yuan's body. The pain made him grimace in pain. When he saw that Li Zongjiu was still walking towards him, Zhao Yuan was so scared that he crawled down the stage. He couldn't even stand up. Plop! Plop! Zhao Yuan's body fell to the ground. Li Zongjiu could no longer continue attacking. I admit defeat, Zhao Yuan said. This strange battle also shocked Zhao Yuan. They were even filled with fear towards Li Zongjiu. In their hearts, they were filled with fear. Long Herb Peak, Li Zongjiu wins, the referee elder said. However, there were no cheers. Everyone was shocked by what had just happened. In their opinion, it shouldn't be like this. How could Li Zongjiu defeat someone? This battle wasn't exciting at all. It wasn't thrilling. Logically speaking, Li Zongjiu should be the one being chased and beaten. After Li Zongjiu won, he didn't make any waves. He glanced at Mo Chu's direction and gave him a hint with his cold eyes. This hint was that Li Zongjiu would beat him up. Mo Chu couldn't help but sit up straight. He stared at Li Zongjiu. It wasn't difficult to defeat Zhao Yuan. However, Mo Chu didn't see clearly how Li Zongjiu defeated Zhao Yuan. The biggest taboo on this battlefield was not being able to see through the opponent's background. This was the reason why Mo Chu was shocked. Mo Chu's lips curled into a cold smile as he stared at Li Zongjiu. Very well. Since you've passed, let me serve you well. Mo Chu clenched his fists so tightly that crackling sounds could be heard. Everyone could feel the anger in his voice. On the spectator stand, even Chu Aoran's eyes widened. How is this possible? Chu Aoran was speechless. Given Yuan Zong's strength, he was naturally aware of just how exquisite the move that Li Zongjiu had just displayed was. In fact, his control over Yuan power had already reached a transcendent level. Only an old monster who had cultivated Yuan power for decades could control it as skillfully as Li Zongjiu. Even Chu Aoran was ashamed of his inferiority. His control of Yuan power was far inferior to Li Zongjiu's. How was this possible? Li Zongjiu had only entered the sect for half a year. Who could teach such a disciple? He looked at Lin Song with a doubtful gaze. Lin Song also expressed his helplessness. I'm afraid that our sect has a genius that only appears once in 10,000 years. Lin Song wasn't exaggerating. In fact, it wasn't even enough to describe Li Zongjiu. Such a monstrous talent. He was already comparable to the genius disciples of the first-rate sections. Not bad, not bad. However, I think that this kid seems to be fighting with Mo Chu. If I'm not wrong, it won't be that easy to defeat Mo Chu, Chu Aoran said. As a grandmaster, not only did he not have any intention of stopping the fight between the genius disciples of his sect, he even wanted to see who was stronger between the two of them. Where could he find such a grandmaster? He was simply a clown. Li Zongjiu returned to his seat. He still turned a deaf ear to other matters and did not even know that his current ranking had already successfully leaped to the 4th rank of the sect's disciples. Could it be that this guy didn't even feel a trace of pride? Wang Bai and the others looked at Li Zongjiu. They couldn't help but give a thumbs up to Li Zongjiu's cultivation base. Hi! This was a true expert. Junior Li Zongjiu must be an incredible person to be able to remain unfazed by honor and disgrace. Wang Bai recalled that when he fought with Li Zongjiu yesterday, he was also thrown off the cliff by his opponent. At that time, he thought that it was an accident. However, it seemed that Zhao Yuan had also lost inexplicably. Even Zhao Yuan, who was a 5th-grade Yuan master, had lost inexplicably. Wasn't this enough to prove Li Zongjiu's strength? If one couldn't see Li Zongjiu's strength, it was because one's strength wasn't enough to reach Li Zongjiu's level. Looking at Li Zongjiu's current calm appearance, Wang Bai couldn't help but wonder. The admiration he had for Li Zongjiu in his heart was like a tidal wave that gushed forth endlessly. When Zhao Yuan fell off the arena, he had already fainted from the pain. The Yuan energy that Li Zongjiu had left in Zhao Yuan's body didn't dissipate. Instead, it continued to stimulate Zhao Yuan's body, allowing him to continue in this pain. This was the most terrifying method. Li Zongjiu naturally had to teach these children. Some things were good, but they were very troublesome. Next time, he had to be careful. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. It was just some jealousy between young people. Therefore, Li Zongjiu didn't kill him. As an elder, he was still magnanimous. The next battle was between Lin Yao and Yang Hongyu from the Crimson Afterglow Peak. This was clearly a free-point challenge. Given Lin Yao's talent and strength, it was basically impossible for her to win against Yang Hongyu. However, if Lin Yao was arranged to compete with other disciples, Longherb Peak's reputation wouldn't look good in the end. Therefore, it was better to let Lin Yao fight Yang Hongyu. This way, it would be easier to explain if she lost. Chapter 105. Junior Sister Lin, it's been a long time. Your cultivation has improved a lot. Yang Hongyu looked at Lin Yao and said with a smile on his face. He had a graceful demeanor. Lin Yao's identity was special. If anyone could take Lin Sang's only granddaughter into their arms, they wouldn't lack elixirs to assist them in their cultivation. What's more, Lin Yao was also young and beautiful. In addition, her cultivation talent wasn't weak either. They were a perfect match. Therefore, anyone who had a good eye would be very interested in Lin Yao. They wanted to win Lin Yao's heart. However, Lin Yao's vision wasn't limited to the Snow Elixir sect. In her eyes, there was only yearning for the martial Tao. She wanted to become an expert and avenge her parents. It wasn't a human who killed her parents, but a meta beast. Therefore, Lin Yao and the origin beast had a grudge that would not end until one of them was dead. Some meta beasts were gentler, but most of them were bloodthirsty and violent. They were extremely vicious and terrifying. Senior brother Yang, be careful. Since they were of the same generation, it was natural for them to be judged by their age and not by their cultivation. Lin Yao was expressionless. She even looked extremely cold. Yang Hongyu didn't find it strange. After all, if Lin Yao suddenly smiled like a flower and threw herself into his arms, he would have to be on guard. The red flag fell. Lin Yao immediately launched an attack. Yang Hongyu's face still had that elegant smile on it from beginning to end. Li Zongjiu woke up from his cultivation. After reading the essay of the White God repeatedly, Li Zongjiu realized that his mental strength seemed to have entered a gentle state. Under the influence of this mental strength, Li Zongjiu might become more peaceful and wouldn't be affected by the murderous aura. Some of the more violent and bloodthirsty people had a strong murderous aura because of the Yuan art they practiced. Moreover, once a fight broke out, they would not be able to survive. Therefore, Li Zongjiu's training was extremely beneficial to him. I can prepare for this mental cultivation method. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. The visualization of the White God Fu seemed to have a limit, so when Li Zongjiu wanted to continue, he felt that it was difficult to move forward. Perhaps it was because his mental strength was not enough. Therefore, Li Zongjiu focused his attention on the match in front of him. Yo, this chick is pretty good. Li Zongjiu saw Lin Yao's movements. Although she couldn't be considered a veteran, her movements were quite normal. This sword technique should be a set of ancient sword techniques from 10,000 years ago. The sword techniques from 10,000 years ago were all evolved from some basic movements. This chick's basic skills are quite solid. Wang Bai, who was sitting to the side, also heard Li Zongjiu calling her a little girl and found it quite smooth. That was way too bold of him. Didn't he see that the elder's face had already darkened? However, Li Zongjiu acted as if he didn't see it at all. He was still pointing at the two people on the stage. This guy is so ugly, and his martial arts is so bad. With this level of skill, if they were at the same level of Yuanli, this guy would definitely die. Li Zongjiu said. If Li Zongjiu hadn't won a match just now, this elder would have stood up and directly thrown Li Zongjiu out. What qualifications do you have to point fingers below? The other people are fighting hard on the stage, and you are here making sarcastic remarks. Lin Yao's movements were swift and her swordsmanship was also first class. Although she didn't have many experts, she was very calm. At the beginning, Yang Hongyu also wanted to fight with Lin Yao with the same level of Yuan Li Zongjiu. However, he found that he wasn't enough to fight with Lin Yao. Immediately, Yang Hongyu changed his strategy. He would first defeat Lin Yao before anything else. Junior sister Lin Yao, I'm sorry. Yang Hongyu shouted as the Yuan Li in his body crazily poured into his chest. Second grade origin skill, Heavenly Fire Fist. As Yang Hongyu's body swayed, his fist immediately released a strong wave of Yuan Li. This fist smashed towards Lin Yao like a scorching fireball, attacking Lin Yao's head. Lin Yao's body retreated, wanting to dodge this attack. However, she found that Yang Hongyu's speed was even faster. Punch after punch came at her. Boom! 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 Flames and heat waves filled the sky, and Lin Yao had no place to hide. Finally, she couldn't dodge the last punch. Amidst the waves of fire, Lin Yao wielded her long sword to block them. Clang! Boom! The fist collided with the long sword and instantly sent Lin Yao flying. Bang! This punch didn't manage to hold back its strength. Not only did it send Lin Yao flying out of the arena, but it also sent her flying for dozens of meters before she landed on the Longherb Peak's viewing platform. She smashed 5 meters in front of Li Zongjiu. She directly smashed a chair into pieces. She couldn't get up for a long time. Fortunately, 2 junior sisters from the Longherb Peak immediately went up and helped their senior sister up. Lin Sung was speechless when he saw this scene. This Li Zongjiu was too calm. Even when he saw such a situation, he didn't step forward to help him. Was it so difficult for Li Zongjiu to save the damsel in distress? Li Zongjiu was also very calm. Lin Yao was helped up and sat back down beside Li Zongjiu. Lin Yao didn't say anything about Li Zongjiu not saving her. After all, Li Zongjiu had no obligation to save her. You fought pretty well. Li Zongjiu looked at Lin Yao and said. Even Lin Yao herself was taken aback. What do you mean by that? It's fine if you don't come to save me, but when you saw me fall so miserably, you actually came up to praise me. This is obviously mocking me. Lin Yao's face suddenly became very ugly. But your swordsmanship is too slow, and you didn't have to follow the order. Swordsmanship is dead, but people are alive. You used the dead swordsmanship even more. Li Zongjiu continued. At first, Lin Yao thought that Li Zongjiu was talking nonsense. But in the blink of an eye, when she recalled what Li Zongjiu had said, she suddenly felt as if she had been enlightened. This caused her to be extremely shocked. Just a casual sentence like this actually gave her a feeling of enlightenment. Swordsmanship is dead, but people are alive. A good set of swordsmanship was used so rigidly by herself. You learned the ancient sword, right? This swordsmanship is too old. You can learn the basic part. The advanced part is rubbish. Li Zongjiu said. Hearing Li Zongjiu's words, Lin Yao's eyes widened. You. How did you know? The ancient sword technique was one of her secrets. Even until now, she hadn't told anyone about it. Even her grandfather didn't know about it. How did Li Zongjiu know about it? You don't have to look as surprised as if you ate a fly. It's not a big deal. Chapter 106. Li Zongjiu's words caused Lin Yao to be unable to calm down for a long time. However, looking at Li Zongjiu's expression, it seemed that he did not approve of the ancient sword technique that Lin Yao had cultivated. Moreover, Li Zongjiu's attention was mostly focused on the competition in the arena. Lin Yao did not speak. Instead, she suppressed the shock in her heart and began to circulate the spiritual energy in her body to recover from her previous exhaustion and injuries. Yang Hongyu returned to his original position. Yang Hongyu felt that Lin Yao's strength was a little strained. Most importantly, Mo Chu had seen his ultimate move. Perhaps Mo Chu would come up with a countermeasure. This was something that Yang Hongyu was extremely worried about. However, when Yang Hongyu looked at Mo Chu, he realized that Mo Chu was not looking at him at all. Mo Chu's gaze was focused on Lin Yao's direction. He was really infatuated. No, Mo Chu was not looking at Lin Yao, but at the young man beside her. If he remembered correctly, this person was called Li Zongjiu. After all, he had won the previous round, which made Yang Hongyu remember Li Zongjiu's name. However, Li Zongjiu's strength was just trash in Yang Hongyu's eyes. He was merely a grade 1 Yuan master. If this strength was placed in the Longherb Peak, he would be considered as having some potential. But if he was placed in the Crimson Afterglow Peak or the Blazing Peak, he would be beaten up. It was simply a disgrace to bring out such strength. Why is Mo Chu's attention always on this kid? Has he changed his taste? Thinking of this, Yang Hongyu felt goosebumps all over his body. He did not expect Mo Chu to be such a person. If Mo Chu knew what Yang Hongyu was thinking, he would definitely stand up and strangle Yang Hongyu to death. The winner of the third round was Ma Zhao from Crimson Afterglow Peak. Ma Zhao's strength was on par with his opponent's. Ma Zhao's final victory was due to his good luck. However, Ma Zhao had used up all of his Yuan Master's energy in this round. He would probably not be able to participate in the next round and would be relegated to 4th place. The 4th round was between Mo Chu and Blazing Peak's disciple. Mo Chu did not give his opponent any face this time. Blazing Peak's disciple's Yuan Master was a grade 6 Yuan Master. However, he could not withstand a single move from Mo Chu. Mo Chu was defeated in a single move. Mo Chu displayed the tyrannical attitude of an expert. Displayed such a domineering aura. Mo Chu was not affected by the enthusiastic applause from the audience. It was as if he was supposed to be enjoying the applause. In this way, the top 4 to be determined. Long Medicine Peaks Li Zongjiu, Crimson Afterglow Peaks Yang Hongyu, Ma Zhao Blazing Peaks. Everyone was surprised that Long Medicine Peak was able to advance to the next round. They did not expect Li Zongjiu to be able to get close to the top 4. Ma Zhao was resting on the spot. If possible, he wanted to recover quickly and fight with Li Zongjiu. It would be best if he could defeat Li Zongjiu. Then, he would be able to get into the top 3 and receive a generous reward. Half an hour later, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. The finals began. The first round was between Ma Zhao and Yang Hongyu. Since Ma Zhao forfeited, Yang Hongyu automatically won. This was very satisfying. The highlight of the second round had arrived. It was between Li Zongjiu and Mo Chu. Li Zongjiu's luck was too good. In addition, he had won the previous round inexplicably. Therefore, many people thought that Li Zongjiu had relied on luck to survive until now. Now that he had met Mo Chu, he would be beaten back to his original state. Mo Chu will definitely not let you go in this round. You have to be careful. Don't try to be brave. Seeing Li Zongjiu getting up and preparing to enter the arena, Lin Yao said. Lin Yao could not help but say. Young people were hot-blooded and cared a lot about their reputation. However, when they cared about their reputation, they would lose their lives. Therefore, Lin Yao said this in hopes that Li Zongjiu would listen to her. However, Li Zongjiu did not seem to hear her at all. He did not even stop and walked past her. This made Lin Yao so angry that she clenched her fists tightly. She wanted to hit Li Zongjiu on the head. How can this person be like this? Under normal circumstances, not many people would be able to see Lin Yao's good side. She took the initiative to show concern for Li Zongjiu but was ignored. After entering the arena, Mo Chu seemed to have been waiting for Li Zongjiu for a long time. When he saw Li Zongjiu, Mo Chu grinned. On his young face, there was a trace of experienced viciousness. It seemed that this kid had done a lot of heinous things behind his back. He needed to be properly dealt with. Li Zongjiu, I have been waiting for you for a long time. If you can walk down from this arena today, I will write my name backwards. Mo Chu sneered and said. He had been suppressing his anger for the entire day. This Li Zongjiu actually dared to mock him and provoke him. This made Mo Chu feel that his dignity and status had been insulted. In the face of such humiliation, he had to make the other party bleed with regret. Li Zongjiu didn't know what was going on in Mo Chu's mind, so he just looked at the elder and asked. Elder, can we start? I can't wait to teach this stranger a lesson. Li Zongjiu said seriously. No one thought that Li Zongjiu was joking. He really wanted to teach Mo Chu a lesson. Just to teach Mo Chu a lesson. Wasn't he afraid that others would laugh their heads off? What a shameless boast. He doesn't even know senior brother Mo Chu. How dare he say that he is a stranger? Where did this idiot come from? Where did this idiot come from? He is from Changyao Peak. Oh my god, this is hilarious. When senior brother Mo Chu beats him up, this guy will definitely be hilarious. Immediately, the disciples from the surrounding peaks burst into laughter. They were mocking Li Zongjiu. This was because Li Zongjiu's behavior was like a country bumpkin. It was as if he was a beggar who suddenly came to the palace and said that he wanted to compete with the #1 Imperial Guard in swordsmanship. What was there to compete with? If Mo Chu did not turn him into a meatball, he would be a fool. Mo Chu was furious. Li Zongjiu's mouth was really crafty. As for the referee elder, he also looked up at the sky. After throwing the flag in his hand, he retreated to the bottom of the arena. He asked the disciples in charge of medical treatment to get ready. If Mo Chu was beaten up too badly, he might be able to save his life. Pa! The red flag fell to the ground. Mo Chu had already prepared the terrifying Yuan power in his body. It had already reached the critical point and it instantly exploded. Boom! The powerful Yuan power was like a hurricane, swallowing Li Zongjiu. Within the hurricane, there seemed to be a flood dragon emerging from it. Wind and Fire Dragon Assembly. Chapter 107. The Yuan power that spiraled out was so powerful that it obscured the audience's vision. The hurricane locked both of them in place. Outsiders were unable to see what was happening inside. Only those with profound Yuan power could see what was happening. This little trick could not be hidden from Chu Aoran and the rest. I'm afraid this is going to be a tough battle. Chu Aoran could not help but laugh. Lin Sung also smiled faintly. Speaking of fighting, Li Zongjiu had a lot of confidence in his stance. Someone who could easily kill a Yuan general would not be defeated so easily. Given Li Zongjiu's strength, killing Mo Chu would only take an instant. However, Li Zongjiu would not do such a thing in front of so many people. Lin Sung's smile suddenly disappeared as he thought of this. Instead, he looked at Li Zongjiu with an extremely serious expression and stared at Li Zongjiu's actions. If he killed Mo Chu in front of so many people, the consequences would be troublesome. It was reasonable to say that he was seriously injured. After all, there was danger in this arena. Even the sect encouraged such intense fights. However, if one wanted to kill someone, it would be a provocation to the sect. My young master, please don't slip your hand. Lin Sung repeated in his heart. On the black stone arena. Mo Chu stared at the person in front of him. There was a cold glint in his eyes. Li Zongjiu, enjoy this dark feast. Mo Chu took a step back. His entire aura had merged with the storm. Disappeared. To be able to do this was already extremely impressive for someone of the same age. Although he had released a little too much Yuan power, the exquisiteness of this move was not something that an ordinary person could compare to. Stupid. Li Zongjiu shook his head and suddenly took a step to the right. Then, he poured the Yuan power of a Yuan master into his right hand and punched out with a loud bang. Bang! The hurricane disappeared and so did the Yuan power. A figure was directly sent flying. All the disciples of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect cried out in surprise. This scene was simply too unbelievable. The Yuan force that Mo Chu had unleashed was already too high. The reason he had covered his vision was probably to beat Li Zongjiu up. At the same time, it was also to prevent Li Zongjiu from surrendering. At the same time, this performance also showed that Mo Chu's Yuan power was extremely tyrannical to be able to create such a powerful hurricane. However, this display of powerful essence energy move only took a few seconds. They probably hadn't even started attacking yet, so how could this person be sent flying out like that? The person who was sent flying was none other than Mo Chu. With a bang, he fell to the ground a few dozen meters away. Fortunately, the black stone arena was relatively spacious. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would have been sent flying. How is this possible? Yang Hongyu was so shocked that he almost jumped up. How did Li Zongjiu do it? Yang Hongyu knew that he wasn't Mo Chu's match when Mo Chu executed the Wind and Fire Dragon assembly. He hadn't expected that Mo Chu would surpass him this year, even though he had barely been able to beat Mo Chu last year. Mo Chu's talent was too terrifying. Yang Hongyu was still trying to think of a way to break this move. In this gathering of wind and fire dragons, he would only be the target of a beating. That would be a miserable ending. However, in the next second, Li Zongjiu had already displayed his terrifying talent and strength. Looking at Mo Chu, who was sent flying with a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, Yang Hongyu instantly felt that his brain wasn't working properly. Was this real? Was this really happening? How did Li Zongjiu do it? He could not believe his eyes at all. In the blink of an eye, Li Zongjiu had already broken this move. When he saw Mo Chu being sent flying, he did not know what had happened. Fuck, is this real? Wang Bai almost fell off his chair when he saw this scene. He opened his mouth wide in shock. Lin Yao's eyes widened as she watched the scene unfold before her eyes. Li Zongjiu's strength was still a mystery. Although he knew that Li Zongjiu's strength was not simple, he never thought that Li Zongjiu's strength would be strong to this extent. In the last battle against Zhao Yuan, he could be considered to have made a good move. However, she did not expect that Mo Chu, who was stronger than Zhao Yuan, would end up in the same situation. He could only be beaten. Haven't you already broken through to the Yuan general realm? You don't have to save it for the end. Show it now. I'll give you a chance. After Li Zongjiu sent Mo Chu flying with a punch, he did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he stood on the spot and said to Mo Chu, "Broke through to the Yuan general realm?" Li Zongjiu's words attracted the attention of many people. What did he mean? Could it be that Mo Chu had already broken through to the Yuan general realm? Lin Sung and the others also looked at the Peak Master of Ruli Peak in surprise. There was a proud smile on the Peak Master's face. I just found out. Obviously, the Peak Master of Lai Peak had already known. He was just waiting for Mo Chu to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat he just found out. His acting was quite good. Sure enough. Chu Aoran said with a smile. He felt that something was wrong before, but now he had confirmed it. He did not expect Mo Chu to be so talented. He has already broken through to the Yuan general realm at such a young age. He will definitely become an influential figure in the future. However, Mo Chu's temperament is too radical. He still needs to be polished. Chu Aoran said. It was normal for a young man to have a temper. Moreover, it was normal for a genius of this level to have a temper. However, it was necessary to give him a warning. Looking at Li Zongjiu's words, even though Li Zongjiu's mastery of the usage of Yuan power was undeniable, in the face of absolute Yuan power, there was only one outcome: defeat. The Peak Masters on the high platform were all astonished. Needless to say, the disciples below were all shocked to the core as well. They looked at each other. Is it really possible to break through to the Yuan general realm? Or is Li Zongjiu just boasting? This is impossible. How can he reach the Yuan general realm? It doesn't exist. Yang Hongyu was the first to find it hard to believe. How could such a thing happen? How could Mo Chu break through to the Yuan general realm at such a young age? One must know that 2 years ago, Mo Chu still had to look up to Yang Hongyu. In the blink of an eye, Yang Hongyu had to look up to Mo Chu. Given Yang Hongyu's cultivation, it would probably take him another 2 years to break through to the Yuan general realm. However, Mo Chu had already achieved it. Even Lin Yao's eyes were filled with shock. It was no wonder that Mo Chu was so confident. He even treated himself as a future sect master candidate. Reality had proven that Mo Chu really had such strength. This was not a joke. Mo Chu stood up again. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Li Zongjiu with a cold smile. You're really something. You actually made me bleed. Since you've already guessed it, then I'll show you. Mo Chu said. At the same time, he rubbed his wrist and touched his chin. After all, Li Zongjiu's punch had landed on his chin. His teeth had knocked against each other, which was why he had bled so much. I originally wanted to use it when I challenged the elders. Since you are so eager to die, I will show you the fear of being weak. Mo Chu was practically roaring the last word. The yuan power in his body erupted wildly with Mo Chu's roar. Rise! Burst! Rise again! The terrifying aura seemed to want to devour the sky. Behind Mo Chu, there was a spiritual body, a flood dragon, because the elemental energy aura was too dense. Of course, it was not Mo Chu's yuan spirit, but it was related to the yuan formula that Mo Chu cultivated. Being able to cultivate the yuan formula to such a level was enough to show how talented Mo Chu was. In this state, he had already reached the small success realm. The aura of a yuan general. Everything was visible at a glance. Mo Chu's clothes flapped loudly. It was as if he was announcing his achievement to the world. Pride was written all over his face. He enjoyed the astonishment, shock, envy, jealousy, worship, and all sorts of gazes from the surrounding 3,000 disciples. This was a kind of glory that belonged to the strong. A yuan general expert who was only 20 years old. Even the sect master of the past was not as talented as him. Li Zongjiu, are you afraid now, oh? Chapter 108. Mo Chu, who had revealed his yuan general level aura. Mo Chu pointed at Li Zongjiu from afar. Mo Chu asked what he thought was a domineering question. Li Zongjiu, are you scared now? Scared? Li Zongjiu wanted to laugh. Was there anything to be proud of in the yuan general level? How could he open his arms and embrace nature? Coupled with that ecstasy and ugly expression, it was a huge blow to Li Zongjiu. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? This guy was too thick-skinned. So thick-skinned that Li Zongjiu didn't want to look at him anymore. Are you ready? Let's continue then. Li Zongjiu said to Mo Chu. Then, he waved his hand. Hurry up, come and hit me. These words were simply the definition of the word asking for a beating. This guy has to surrender. Otherwise, I don't know what will happen. Lin Yao said anxiously. She even persuaded the elder beside her to take action and bring the person down first. It didn't matter if they lost the competition, but what if they were beaten until half of their body was paralyzed? Given the potential that Mo Chu had shown, the sect would definitely not blame him. Li Zongjiu wouldn't be able to seek redress then. However, the elder couldn't ignore the sect rules and take action at will. Most importantly, this elder wasn't strong enough for Mo Chu to defeat. Even if he rushed forward, he would probably be knocked down by Mo Chu. The scene was extremely awkward. Then, Lin Yao heard Li Zongjiu's provocation and widened her eyes. This Li Zongjiu. What was going on in his head? Was he full of shit? He knew that his opponent was strong, but he still dared to provoke Mo Chu. Such a suicidal act was simply a sin in the eyes of others. You're courting death. Mo Chu was no longer hesitant. He took a step forward and the yuan power in his body seemed to have been guided by Mo Chu. They turned into long whips and flew out from the ground towards Li Zongjiu. Boom! Once Li Zongjiu was caught by the terrifying yuan energy whip, it would be impossible for him to break free. In the end, he would only be beaten up by Mo Chu. Whoosh! Who would have thought that Li Zongjiu would leap in place? His speed suddenly exploded. None of the swaying elemental energy whips actually managed to touch Li Zongjiu's body. Li Zongjiu shuttled through the yuan power whips as if he had entered a place where no one could stop him. He moved effortlessly and quickly arrived in front of Mo Chu. Are you here to die? Then I'll fulfill your wish. Mo Chu roared. His fist was like a dragon as all of his yuan power gathered in Mo Chu's hand. At this moment, the terrifying power that exploded out caused the faces of Yang Hongyu and the others to change. If he were to face this punch, he would probably end up with his shit being beaten out of his body. It was too terrifying. Boom! Li Zongjiu also threw a punch. There was an extremely thin layer of golden light surrounding his fist. However, it was this layer of golden light that became Li Zongjiu's strongest defense. Mo Chu felt as if his punch had hit an iron plate. Li Zongjiu did not move an inch. Mo Chu felt as if his fist was about to explode. What exactly was Li Zongjiu's fist made of? It was so strong and tough. Whoosh! Mo Chu retracted his fist and threw out his left hand. It smashed towards Li Zongjiu's head. Mo Chu's speed was faster than Li Zongjiu's due to the support of his yuan power. Boom! Another punch landed. Li Zongjiu blocked this punch as well. The overbearing power instantly surged like a tidal wave. Hiss! Mo Chu's left fist was not as strong as his right fist. Hence, he was at a disadvantage in this exchange with Li Zongjiu. He grimaced in pain and could not speak. He wanted to scream out loud, but this would damage his image. Therefore, he could only forcefully swallow this painful scream. Flame Tyrant Palm! Mo Chu shouted as the yuan power in his body was released. It formed an overbearing seal in front of him as he tried to send Li Zongjiu flying. However, before the seal could form, Li Zongjiu's fist had already landed with a boom. The yuan power immediately dispersed. What? You can actually disperse my yuan power? Mo Chu's eyes widened in disbelief. Li Zongjiu had indeed done it. When the Flame Tyrant Palm was formed, it was instantly dispersed. Not only did it destroy Mo Chu's move, but it also caused Mo Chu's meridians to burn in pain. Li Zongjiu's punch made Mo Chu feel what it meant to be hit by a move. He grimaced in pain. Boom! Li Zongjiu came in front of Mo Chu and threw another punch. It landed heavily on Mo Chu's head. Immediately, Mo Chu's body flew backwards. The wild and violent yuan power that he had unleashed was completely scattered at this moment. Even though he had used the yuan power of a yuan general, he still could not defeat Li Zongjiu. At this moment, everyone tensed up in shock. They were all discussing what kind of monster Li Zongjiu was. It seemed that no matter how strong the enemy was, they would not be able to withstand Li Zongjiu's fist. Trash! Li Zongjiu spat. Mo Chu rolled on the ground a dozen times before he came to a stop. He was already dizzy and could not differentiate between north, south, east, and west. This was the first time Mo Chu had been beaten so badly. He had never encountered such a battle before. Had Li Zongjiu's fist been blessed by the martial god? Wasn't Mo Chu a general realm warrior? When they saw Li Zongjiu send Mo Chu flying with a single punch, the same question popped up in everyone's mind. Even Chu Aoran was shocked. Mo Chu's strength was already at the yuan general level, but he was still unable to withstand Li Zongjiu's punch. This kid's strength is a little strange. Chu Aoran said in surprise. Even Chu Aoran could not believe that Li Zongjiu had defeated his opponent so easily. This was too easy for Li Zongjiu to win. Lin Song was not surprised at all. What was there to be surprised about? Li Zongjiu had killed an extremely experienced powerhouse in Luoxia City. That assassin Mu Yuan's fighting strength was much more difficult to deal with than an ordinary yuan general. If Mo Chu were to fight Mu Yuan would have countless ways to end Mo Chu's life. This was the difference between them. Although their cultivation levels were similar, their experience was not something that could be learned. It could only be achieved through years of learning and accumulation. Mo Chu had been beaten to the ground. This was something that many people could not believe. When Mo Chu got up from the ground, he was shocked as well. It was hard to imagine that he would encounter such a thing. How is this possible? What methods does this guy have? In Mo Chu's eyes, he couldn't even remember what had happened just now. Be a good person in the future. Li Zongjiu stepped forward and gave Mo Chu a kick. Mo Chu regarded Li Zongjiu as a great enemy. However, Li Zongjiu had never taken Mo Chu seriously. He was just an arrogant brat. There was nothing to be concerned about. When he left the Snow Elixir sect and went to a higher level environment, there would be a lot of people coming to deal with him. Plop. Mo Chu fell to the ground. His head hit the ground directly. The powerful impact caused Mo Chu to pass out. Mo Chu was defeated. Chapter 109. Yang Hongyu, who had been sitting down all this while, finally couldn't take it anymore and stood up. He could clearly see that Mo Chu was really defeated. He wasn't just putting on an act with Li Zongjiu. This was a real battle. Mo Chu had used all his moves in front of Li Zongjiu. However, he couldn't escape his fate of being defeated. Lin Yao, Wang Bai and the rest opened their eyes wide. They couldn't calm down for a long time. They didn't even know how to face Li Zongjiu. Is Li Zongjiu a god? How could he defeat Mo Chu so easily? Looking at Mo Chu's appearance, it seemed like he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Even the referee elder on the stage was greatly shocked. Although he was expressionless on the surface, he was extremely shocked in his heart. Even though he was standing at such a good distance, he still couldn't see clearly how Li Zongjiu had done it. It was as if the other party had deliberately made moves to let Li Zongjiu counter them. Therefore, when he attacked, he defeated the other party directly. Quick, medical team, carry him down for treatment. The elder said. Originally, the medical team was prepared for Li Zongjiu. However, the one being carried down was Mo Chu. Li Zongjiu calmly returned to his seat. However, he quickly stood up because the next battle was Li Zongjiu's turn. Ma Zhao naturally had no chance of winning against Yang Hongyu. Rather than that, he might as well take a break and adjust his condition. Even if he were to walk up to Yang Hongyu, he would only be asking for humiliation. It was better to just admit defeat and no one would say anything. The third battle was to determine the third and fourth place. Mo Chu and Ma Zhao had both lost the battle. The two of them would compete against each other. However, Mo Chu still hadn't woken up. The doctor who had broken his arm said that Mo Chu's blood had attacked his heart. He must have been angered by the battle just now. Hence, it was difficult for him to recover. Ma Zhao automatically won the battle and became the third place in the Mist Snow Elixir Sect's peak trial. Mo Chu didn't even have the right to enter the Mist Snow Valley. This made Ma Zhao feel somewhat baffled. For a moment, he didn't know whether he should be happy or rejoice. However, since there were such benefits, he would keep them for now. The arena was constantly changing. No one knew what would happen. Hence, he shouldn't give up until the last moment. The battle for the first place was between Li Zongjiu and Yang Hongyu from the Crimson Afterglow Peak. For some reason, the disciples of the Long Medicine Peak started chanting Li Zongjiu's name frantically. Even if they lost. Li Zongjiu was in the second place. This was the highest ranking that Long Herb Peak had achieved in so many years. In fact, as long as Long Herb Peak could obtain this ranking, they would be able to hold their heads up high. They wouldn't be ridiculed by these people every day. They wouldn't be called a bunch of fools who only knew how to refine pills. In fact, most of the people who stayed at Long Herb Peak wanted to cultivate. They wanted to take advantage of the medicinal pills to improve their cultivation. However, they didn't expect that the wrong cultivation atmosphere and different curriculum would delay their cultivation even more when they came to Longherb Peak. In addition, the fact that they were in control of such an important aspect of alchemy resources directly made these people very popular. It was easy to walk on a path of no return. Li Zongjiu used his fists to prove to these people that there were fighting experts in the Long Medicine Peak. Even Lin Sung himself felt proud and elated. He even felt like he could lift his head and puff out his chest. He felt that his Long Medicine Peak was finally doing well. Needless to say, the elder of the Longherb Peak was even more pleased with Li Zongjiu. At this moment, there was no need to mention how much he liked Li Zongjiu. No wonder this kid was dozing off when he was watching the competition. He was hiding his strength. Now, he had displayed this level of strength. No matter what Li Zongjiu did, no one would say anything. This was the benefit of strength. Li Zongjiu just sat down, but he was called up again. When he saw that his opponent was Yang Hongyu, who had kicked Lin Yao down. Li Zongjiu was about to go forward, but he turned back. "Give me your sword," Li Zongjiu said to Lin Yao. He asked her to give him her sword, not to borrow it. He was so domineering. It was hard for Lin Yao to refuse. She even subconsciously handed her sword to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu took the sword, turned around, and jumped into the arena. Even Wang Bai and the others were dumbfounded. Senior sister's sword was a treasure among treasures. It was a personal item. How could she borrow it just like that? At this moment, Yang Hongyu, who was standing opposite Li Zongjiu, was feeling extremely complicated. It should be known that Yang Hongyu's cultivation had already reached grade 8 Yuan Master. Originally, he had wanted to use his experience and combat intuition to make up for this last bit of difference. However, when they found out that Mo Chu had already broken through to the Yuan general realm, they felt that the last bit of hope in this world had been extinguished. Everything was useless now that Mo Chu was at the Yuan general realm. Yang Hongyu could not compete with Mo Chu in a short time. However, there was another piece of good news. Mo Chu had been defeated. In this way, he did not have to face Mo Chu, who was at the Yuan general realm. Instead, he had to face Li Zongjiu, who was only at grade 1 Yuan Master. This should be something to be happy about, but Yang Hongyu could not bring himself to smile. However, when Yang Hongyu saw that Li Zongjiu was actually holding Lin Yao's sword and walking over, his expression immediately changed. What was Li Zongjiu trying to do? Was he trying to avenge his senior sister? Was he trying to humiliate him with his swordsmanship? Yang Hongyu's expression instantly relaxed. The battle hadn't even started, but Li Zongjiu's invisible actions had already slapped him in the face. Li Zongjiu was clearly trying to teach Yang Hongyu a lesson on behalf of his senior sister. How could an ordinary person tolerate such a thing? Furthermore, Yang Hongyu was the big senior brother of the Crimson Afterglow Peak. Li Zongjiu is too arrogant. Yeah, does he think he can beat our big senior brother? Dream on. Big senior brother, teach him a lesson. Big senior brother, beat him up. The disciples of the Crimson Afterglow Peak felt humiliated as they shouted one after another. As for the people from Longherb Peak, Wang Bai knew that they would be looked down upon if they were to remain silent. Especially since Li Zongjiu had a higher chance of winning. Wang Bai knew that Li Zongjiu had a higher chance of winning. Fuck. People of Longherb Peak, get up. Long Medicine Peak will win. Wang Bai waved his fist and shouted. All the disciples of the Long Medicine Peak immediately responded. They had thought that the Long Medicine Peak was going to be a supporting character this time. However, in the blink of an eye, they had become the main character. If Li Zongjiu won, then their Long Medicine Peak would have a feeling of superiority in the future. That's right. Long Medicine Peak was the main force of the Fog Snow Elixir sect. They could refine pills and kill people. They were proficient in everything. This was the real Long Medicine Peak. Junior Brother Li, you are too much. Chapter 110. Yang Hongyu said in a deep voice. Too much. What's too much? Oh, you're saying that I deliberately took Lin Yao's sword to humiliate you? Yes, I'm too much. What can you do about it? Li Zongjiu said. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu's temper was very low-key. Even if he was bullied, he would still welcome it with a smile. There was no other way, he was weaker. But in this life, it was different. He was so powerful, why should he be afraid of Li Zongjiu? The person who could make Li Zongjiu afraid had not even been born yet, let alone a small sect disciple like Li Zongjiu. Even if he bullied you, what could you do? Damn it! Yang Hongyu clenched his fists so hard that they almost burst. You forced me to do this. His lungs were about to explode from anger, but he could still stand there and talk to Li Zongjiu calmly because Li Zongjiu was powerful. But now, he had no choice but to fight Li Zongjiu head-on. A warrior can be killed, but not humiliated. Today, I want you to understand that even if you are strong, you can't defeat me with just sword skills. Yang Hongyu said in a low voice, and a pair of silk gloves appeared on his hands. These were gloves. There were also elemental marks carved on them. It's an elemental tool. Lin Yao exclaimed. The so-called elemental tool was a high-quality weapon carved with elemental marks. For example, Lin Yao's azure light sword was only equivalent to a profound-grade weapon. The Flying Cloud City's Su family's Huangyuan ore could be used to forge Huangyuan-grade weapons. It was the best weapon that sold the most and had the highest usage rate among ordinary masters. It was also the best weapon that could be sold at a relatively low price. Above that, according to the difference in materials and forging methods. These weapons could be divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, profound, and profound. An earth-grade weapon could only be found in a first-grade city. As for a heaven-grade weapon, it was mostly due to the fame of its owner that it could become a heaven-grade weapon. However, an elemental tool was on a different level. An elemental tool was a weapon carved with elemental marks. These marks often allowed the weapon to have a special power. Elemental inscriptions were a special method of production. If one wanted to carve the inscriptions, the first requirement was that one had to be a spirit master to use the elemental inscriptions and carve them. The grade of the elemental tools was differentiated according to the grade of the elemental marks. It was usually divided into 6 levels. The weapon in Yang Hongyu's hand was a level 1 origin weapon. Ice Fire Silk Gloves. Just from the material alone, it was equivalent to a profound grade weapon. He even took out a yuan tool. This is cheating. Wang Bai immediately shouted. The price of this origin tool was at least over 1 million gold coins. How many people could take it out? To be able to take out over 1 million gold coins to buy this weapon, this clan must have at least a few dozen million gold coins. This Yang Hongyu, if I remember correctly, is from the Yang family in Lower Kingstown? Chu Aoran asked. The peak master of the Crimson Afterglow Peak beside him also nodded. That's right. The Yang family's main business is yuan weapons. There are 2 spirit masters in the family. The peak master of the Crimson Afterglow Peak said. Well, no wonder. Chu Aoran said. Lower Kingstown was considered a decent second-tier city. In front of the Sunset City, it was an absolute colossus. Yang Hongyu's talent was not bad. However, the Fog Snow Pills sect was still a huge sect. It was not something a clan like this could compare to. Therefore, Yang Hongyu had to be obedient in this sect. Only a clan like this could give Yang Hongyu such a high-grade yuan tool. Otherwise, this yuan tool would need to be at least at the yuan general level to be able to use it. Don't go overboard in a fight between fellow disciples. The 2 of you, pay attention. Now, let's begin. The referee elder could not help but say when he saw the intense atmosphere. Those who were able to reach this stage were all talents that the sect focused on nurturing. Under such circumstances, they could not be beaten until half of their body was paralyzed. If that happened, the sect would be the one to suffer in the end. After saying that, the referee elder retreated to the side. He even called for an elder to approach the arena. He had to be careful of the two people. If something really happened, he had to stop them in time. Make your move. My ice-fire silk gloves are extremely powerful. I'm afraid that you won't have the chance to make your move later. It seemed to be after he put on the gloves. Yang Hongyu's confidence increased greatly. His words made Li Zongjiu feel awkward. What was extremely powerful? He, Li Zongjiu, would like to see it properly. Oh, okay. Li Zongjiu replied in a very capable manner. After he finished speaking, the azure light sword that Lin Yao had given him was unsheathed with a whoosh. Swoosh. Li Zongjiu raised his sword, bringing with it waves of ominous light. Moreover, Li Zongjiu was displaying a terrifying aura. At the same time, Li Zongjiu's sword seemed to be carrying a river of spring water as it charged forward. Boom! What? How is this possible? The Yuan energy displayed by Li Zongjiu was clearly only at grade 1 Yuan Master Realm. However, after approaching, it gave Yang Hongyu an even more terrifying aura than Mo Chu's. This kind of terrifying aura was something that Yang Hongyu had only felt when facing sect elders and peak masters. Could it be that Li Zongjiu's strength was already at the same level as the sect's peak masters? It's the ancient sword technique. Others might not have noticed it, but Lin Yao had already seen it clearly in an instant. Li Zongjiu was displaying the ancient sword technique of the ancient sword technique. Even when facing Lin Yao, he had displayed it exactly as it was. It was the same move, the same sword. However, in the hands of different people, the effects were completely different. It's actually the same sword technique as Lin Yao. Could it be that Li Zongjiu is also a sword genius? Chu Aoran exclaimed. Li Zongjiu had brought them too many surprises. Not only had he defeated Mo Chu, but the sword technique he had displayed had basically reached the level of lifting something heavy as though it was light. This meant that his sword technique had already entered the initial stage. Being able to comprehend a sword technique to such an extent at such a young age meant that he was destined to have an extraordinary future. The more Chu Aoran looked at Li Zongjiu, the more he liked him. Naturally, they did not doubt the talent of sect disciples. Furthermore, Li Zongjiu's background was clean and clear. Their sect loved disciples like him the most. You have to nurture him well, Chu Aoran said. Chu Aoran said repeatedly. The three peak masters could also see that Chu Aoran was very satisfied with Li Zongjiu. Even the supreme elder, who had been dozing off, opened his eyes when Li Zongjiu displayed the ancient sword technique. He let out a cry of surprise. In the arena. When Li Zongjiu attacked with his sword, Yang Hongyu had already realized that things were not good. His opponent had clearly displayed his strength before, yet he still allowed him to attack. Wasn't this a slap to his own face? Thinking of this, Yang Hongyu felt a wave of regret. However, he quickly composed himself and entered the battle state to face Li Zongjiu's sword. It seemed as though a river was rolling down from the sky and was about to wash Yang Hongyu away. Yang Hongyu forcefully stabilized his body. When the move was about to land, his hands suddenly grabbed Li Zongjiu's sword. If it were any other time, such a move would be tantamount to giving Li Zongjiu his hands. However, the ice-fire heavenly silkworm gloves in his hands were tough and invulnerable. Even if Li Zongjiu's green light sword was a profound grade weapon, it was impossible for it to break through the basic defense. However, Li Zongjiu's sword was firmly caught by Yang Hongyu's hands. The sword momentum seemed to have been obstructed at this moment. As for Yang Hongyu, he looked at Li Zongjiu and smiled proudly. Ha, my ice-fire heavenly silkworm gloves are invulnerable. They are fierce in the face of fire and soft in the face of water. You can't break through my defense. Chapter 111. After experiencing the power of his Icefire Heavenly Silkworm gloves, Yang Hongyu's confidence was greatly boosted. Thinking that Mo Chu might have just entered the Yuan general realm and his Yuan power might have only increased slightly, Yang Hongyu felt that this was not a difficult task. This gap was not something that could not be bridged. With the Yuan weapon in his hands, he might not necessarily be Mo Chu's match. Furthermore, Mo Chu's failure might have been due to carelessness. Li Zongjiu did not seem that fierce. Therefore, Yang Hongyu could not help but calm down. He focused on fighting Li Zongjiu. Go! Li Zongjiu pushed the green light sword forward gently. Suddenly, a surging force pushed Yang Hongyu away. Bam! Yang Hongyu's figure retreated dozens of steps. When he regained his footing, he felt a burning sensation between his hands. A searing, tearing pain came over him. What? My Icefire Heavenly Silkworm gloves. Yang Hongyu clearly saw that there was an additional sword mark on his Heavenly Silkworm gloves. How did this happen? In the next moment, Li Zongjiu performed his swordsmanship again. This time, it was as if thousands of bulls were trampling on the ground. Li Zongjiu's sword landed on the ground. Boom! This terrifying commotion immediately caused the ground to be riddled with holes. This move. Lin Yao widened her eyes and carefully observed the state of Li Zongjiu's move. Everyone was clearly using the same move, but Li Zongjiu was able to easily perform it. Its power was dozens of times greater than Lin Yao's. This caused Lin Yao to be greatly shocked. How did he do it? From what Li Zongjiu had said just now, it seemed that he had done some research on the ancient sword technique. At this moment, seeing Li Zongjiu's reduced swordsmanship, which was dozens of times more powerful than hers, Lin Yao could not help but feel hurt. However, Lin Yao also understood that Li Zongjiu had done this to guide her. He purposely used the same sword technique so that Lin Yao could have a better understanding of it. Although Lin Yao was shocked by Li Zongjiu's strength, she was more interested in learning from him. The creation of the ancient sword technique originated from a kind of understanding of all things in the world. Every move was filled with the power of the mountains and rivers. However, Lin Yao had yet to reach that level. From Li Zongjiu's body, Lin Yao could feel the true intent of the ancient sword technique. Li Zongjiu immediately performed a few more moves. Every move was as majestic and imposing as a mountain. It was full of power. On the other side, Yang Hongyu was also suffering unspeakably. Li Zongjiu clearly had the opportunity to defeat him, but he did not go all out. Grade 2 Origin Skill, Skyfire Fist. Yang Hongyu could no longer endure the feeling of being suppressed. He immediately roared, as if he wanted to end things with Li Zongjiu. Previously, Yang Hongyu had also performed this move to force Lin Yao down. At this moment, he was performing this move again. It was obvious that Yang Hongyu had already cultivated this move to the point of perfection. When he performed it again, the Icefire Heavenly Silkworm glove that he had been wearing suddenly lit up with a ray of light. The rays of light intertwined with each other and immediately formed a terrifying aura. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly formed in front of Yang Hongyu. The surrounding heatwave was tumbling, as if it was going to engulf people. Lin Yao looked at Li Zongjiu nervously, because Lin Yao had personally faced this move before. She knew that when facing this move, the surrounding heatwave would almost cover one's senses and there would be no chance to rush out. It was also extremely difficult to find Yang Hongyu's figure under this scorching aura. Just as Lin Yao and the others were feeling apprehensive, Li Zongjiu's figure moved. The green light sword in his hand seemed to have grown eyes as it directly pierced towards Yang Hongyu's throat. He wanted to exchange injury for injury. If Yang Hongyu were to perform this punch, it would be enough to break Li Zongjiu's defense and cripple him. However, there was also a possibility that Li Zongjiu's green light sword would pierce through his throat. This guy is serious. Yang Hongyu did not expect Li Zongjiu to actually dare to use such a killing move. The two elders immediately became nervous. They were extremely worried that Li Zongjiu's sword would pierce through. It would not be a good ending if both sides were to be injured. You dare to fight with your life on the line. Yang Hongyu gritted his teeth. Li Zongjiu's move seemed to have grasped the perfect opportunity. He did not give Yang Hongyu much time to think. If he did not make a decision quickly, he would be killed. Yang Hongyu, who originally wanted to be tyrannical, was very honest with his body. His hands stopped moving. It formed a defensive barrier in front of his body. Damn it! The moment he gave up his attack, Yang Hongyu knew that he would definitely lose. From this momentum, it was already clear that he had lost. Sure enough, even if he used all the yuan power in his body to resist, when Li Zongjiu's sword fell, he could still clearly feel the cold aura piercing through his throat. Boom! Yang Hongyu's figure flew out. At this moment, the momentum of the sword in Li Zongjiu's hand was like a ferocious tiger pouncing. It used its claws to firmly grasp Yang Hongyu's throat and then pressed him to the ground. Bang! Yang Hongyu's figure instantly fell to the ground. The distance between here and the arena was at least 40 to 50 meters. It could be considered as revenge for Lin Yao. Yang Hongyu fell to the ground. Defeated. But he survived. If he had insisted on attacking just now, Yang Hongyu could already imagine his fate. He would definitely have been pierced through by Li Zongjiu's sword. Because Li Zongjiu's speed was too fast. Seeing this, Lin Yao's eyes flashed. This must be what Li Zongjiu meant by not fast enough. If his speed was fast enough, this sword would come down. The enemy would not have any chance to attack. This was what Li Zongjiu wanted to express. Li Zongjiu won. It was so easy to win. He did not even see what moves Li Zongjiu used. Moreover, Li Zongjiu did not fall into a disadvantageous position. That awesome glove did not seem to be of any use. In front of Li Zongjiu, it was still easily broken. They even felt that it was a matter of course. It was really too easy to win. Seeing this, Li Zongjiu and Yang Hongyu's lives were not in danger. All the elders breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat on their foreheads. After all, if this matter was blown out of proportion, this peak test would be meaningless. It did not matter if they were injured. But if there was any fundamental damage, it would be very serious. Long Medicine Peak, Li Zongjiu wins. He is the champion of this peak test. As soon as this announcement was made, the Long Medicine Peak was filled with earth-shattering cheers. This was really too exciting. Congratulations, congratulations. Lin Sung also accepted the congratulations from the other peak masters with a smile. This time, he really stopped. He did not expect that Li Zongjiu would give him such a big gift. However, this competition was a little too easy for Li Zongjiu. Putting away the cyan light sword, Li Zongjiu came in front of the referee elder. Well, I want to challenge the elder. Chapter 112. The cheers were very loud. However, the referee elder had clearly heard what Li Zongjiu had just said. However, the referee elder did not believe Chu Feng at all. He did not dare to believe his eyes. No, he could not believe his own ears. What? Although he had heard it clearly, the referee elder still asked again to confirm that Li Zongjiu had not said anything wrong. Perhaps he was too excited and had blurted out those words. I said, I want to challenge the elder. Li Zongjiu repeated himself. Challenge the elder. Li Zongjiu was actually planning to challenge the elder. It had been many years since a disciple had challenged an elder. Even if they had won, they knew that there was a huge gap between them and the elder. The fact that Mo Chu was able to break through to the Yuan general level while he was still a disciple was indeed something to be proud of. If Mo Chu were to win, he would perhaps issue a challenge and exchange blows with the elder in order to gain some experience. The elder would often act as though he was imparting knowledge to the elder. To them, defeating a disciple wasn't something they could brag about. Instead, they hoped that a few talents would emerge from the disciples below. However, judging from Li Zongjiu's imposing manner, it was obvious that he was here to defeat the elder. For a time, the elders of the two main peaks who were fighting were also interested. This brat was really a little arrogant. A mere disciple from Long Herb Peak had defeated disciples from Blazing Peak and Crimson Afterglow Peak. Now, he had actually dared to challenge their elder. It was indeed as though he was looking for trouble. He actually wants to challenge the elder. Yang Hongyu was helped up by junior brother Tong. When he heard Li Zongjiu's words, even Yang Hongyu was taken aback. He looked at Li Zongjiu in disbelief. However, it made sense. The gap between him and Li Zongjiu was too huge. Even after exchanging blows, he could not see through Li Zongjiu's strength. This was Li Zongjiu's strength. It was not something that ordinary people could see through. Therefore, it was reasonable for Li Zongjiu to issue a challenge. This was because no one could tell how strong Li Zongjiu was until now. Interesting. I think Qin Lai must be very unconvinced. Why don't we let him go up? Chu Aoran said. Qin Lai was the great elder of Blazing Peak. Blazing Peak had painstakingly nurtured a disciple of the Yuan general level, but he was inexplicably beaten to 4th place. Although this was due to the rules of the competition, losing to Li Zongjiu was still very shocking. Where did this Li Zongjiu come from? He had actually defeated the genius that Blazing Peak had painstakingly nurtured. How could they tolerate this? Very well. Since you want to challenge an elder, then I, Qin Lai, will have to take action. Qin Lai was already eager to give it a try. At the same time, he used his gaze to warn the elder of Crimson Afterglow Peak and the others not to take action and steal his job. The elder of Crimson Afterglow Peak could not wait for Qin Lai to take action. This was not a good task. If he won, then he won. If he lost or embarrassed himself in the arena, then how would he look at the reputation of an elder in the future? Would others still call him an elder in the future? Let's wait for a good show. Ha! Those at the elder level were also whispering to each other. Have you really decided? The referee elder said in a deep voice. Li Zongjiu also nodded. What a joke. If he did not challenge this elder, then how would he be able to stay in the Fog Snow Valley for 7 days? One had to know that the spiritual energy in the last 3 days was the most vigorous and the densest. In fact, it was more than 10 times the spiritual energy of the previous 4 days. Long Herb Peaks Li Zongjiu, as the champion of this summit, I challenge. Is there any elder who is willing to spar with me? Immediately, the elder turned around and shouted towards the huge square. All the disciples were listening in silence. At the same time, they were secretly guessing which elder's guild had made a move. This had piqued their curiosity. I'll do it. Just as the referee elder's voice faded away, a voice as loud as a leopard's resounded. The sound was like thunder, rolling and rolling in the sky above the Crimson Afterglow Peak. If the enemy encountered such a situation, they would have been scared out of their wits by this sound since they couldn't tell what was real and what was false. Shameless. This elder is really thick-skinned. Bah, he's obviously targeting senior brother Li. The disciples of Long Herb Peak started to ridicule. Because the one who spoke was the great elder of Blazing Peak. Qin Lai stood up. First, he cupped his hands towards the sect master and the others. Then, with a leap, he landed on the arena. Although he was about the same height as Li Zongjiu, the arrogance in his eyes gave people a feeling of superiority. Looking at Li Zongjiu before him, it was as if he was looking at an ant. Li Zongjiu, I'm Blazing Peak's great elder, Qin Lai. Since you've issued a challenge, if you can withstand 10 of my moves, I'll consider it your victory. Qin Lai said proudly. His words caused the crowd to sigh. This was too much of a bully. It was not the first time someone challenged an elder. However, it was usually an ordinary elder who stepped up. Qin Lai was the great elder of Blazing Peak. It was a waste of talent for him to step up personally. Moreover, everyone could see that Qin Lai was here to teach Li Zongjiu a lesson. No need, no need. We'll follow the rules. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and said. His words seemed to be very polite. However, the content of his words was to show Qin Lai who was in charge. When Li Zongjiu said that there was no need, he meant that there was no need for the agreement of 10 moves. He would only be considered a winner if he defeated him. As his disciple, Qin Lai would not take advantage of him. Qin Lai's eyes widened in anger when he heard this. He was about to spit fire. Good, good, good. You've got guts. I like such a gutsy disciple. If you can defeat me today, I'll give you my elder position. Qin Lai said proudly. As an elder with a bad temper, it was not strange for him to say such words. In fact, Qin Lai was a man of his words. He was just that straightforward. The judge was an elder of Crimson Afterglow Peak. Now that he saw Qin Lai and the Long Herb Peak's disciple face to face, he could not say anything. After all, Qin Lai was the great elder of Blazing Peak. This Qin Lai is really hot-tempered. Chu Aoran said. Qin Lai was hot-tempered, but he was straightforward. He was also loyal to the sect. Although he was hot-tempered, Chu Aoran still admired him. Elder, you're too polite. Li Zongjiu cupped his hands and said. Qin Lai was stunned. At first, he didn't know what Li Zongjiu meant by being polite. Later on, when he thought about it, he realized that the courtesy Li Zongjiu was referring to was him taking the initiative to give up the position of elder to him. How arrogant. Chapter 113. This wasn't the first time someone had challenged an elder. However, Li Zongjiu's challenge this time was definitely the most unruly one. It was as if he was treating this elder as an equal, and not his own elder. Qin Lai was an elder of Lai Peak. Naturally, his strength was remarkable. Just his cultivation alone was already at the level of a grade 5 prime general. With this strength, he could be a vanguard general at the border. It was very difficult to break through and improve at the prime general level. Gu Xuanwu was proof of this. To be selected into the Xuanwu army, it was enough to see how strong and talented Gu Xuanwu was. But now, he was already in his 60s. In the end, he was still at the level of a grade 2 prime general. At Qin Lai's age, a grade 5 prime general was already very good. Ha! Qin Lai released all the energy in his body. This was a good opportunity to announce the strength of his sect to the disciples and leave a deep impression on them. Normally, these elders rarely made a move, and sometimes they were a little strict. These disciples were dissatisfied. Today, I'll show you what true strength is. Boom! A terrifying aura was released. Qin Lai's entire body emitted a dense fluctuation of origin energy, causing everyone to be shocked. At this moment, Qin Lai stood on the arena like a towering, unmoving mountain of flames. The kind of mountain of flames that could explode at the slightest touch. Li Zongjiu lifted his head, looking at Qin Lai in front of him. That tyrannical elemental energy was unleashed, and the entire arena was filled with a terrifying aura. All of it belonged to Qin Lai's fire elemental energy. Li Zongjiu's clothes swayed along with it, and when he touched them, Li Zongjiu found that they were already burning hot. If the power was just a little bit stronger, Li Zongjiu's clothes would probably be burned off. Not bad. Li Zongjiu didn't let his guard down. Although he was confident, Qin Lai was still the strongest opponent Li Zongjiu had ever met. The golden-winged blue-tailed eagle was guarding the Li family. Otherwise, the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle would have been enough to turn Qin Lai into a cripple. The green light sword in his hand trembled slightly. Li Zongjiu didn't hesitate and charged towards Qin Lai. In the face of such an expert, other than a head-on confrontation, if one wanted to use any other tricks in this kind of martial arts competition, one would only be thrown off the stage. Seeing that Li Zongjiu was actually running directly towards him, Qin Lai was also very appreciative. With his temper, he liked it when his opponent charged at him. This kind of direct confrontation was the embodiment of a man. Come! Qin Lai let out a low roar. Even when facing a disciple who was weaker than him, or even a disciple who was only at the first grade of the Yuan Master realm, he did not relax. There was a reason why Li Zongjiu was able to win until the end. It was definitely not due to luck. Whoosh! The green light sword in Li Zongjiu's hand left his hand and turned into a flying sword, stabbing towards Qin Lai. The origin energy defense that Qin Lai released didn't interfere with the direction and strength of the flying sword. With a boom, it flew towards Qin Lai. Blazing fist. Qin Lai was even more direct. Facing the green light sword that had the power to break blood, he clenched his fist and chopped the white stone in front of him. Boom! The blazing aura sent the green light sword flying. This sword is not bad. What other moves do you have? Just use them. Qin Lai's fist was so domineering that people couldn't help but be dazed. Facing such domineering power, how could there be any chance of victory? It would be wonderful if they weren't beaten into meat paste. When Qin Lai knocked away Li Zongjiu's green light sword, he discovered that Li Zongjiu's figure had already disappeared. The powerful aura instantly captured Li Zongjiu's figure. Unknowingly, Li Zongjiu had already run behind him. Unfortunately, although Li Zongjiu's speed was fast, he still couldn't hide in front of a Yuan general. Experts at the Yuan general level were so powerful that they could release their Yuan Qi and form an absolute Yuan Qi field around them. Under this Yuan Qi field, they could control everything around them. Therefore, no matter where an attack came from, they would be able to capture it. You couldn't escape his eyes at all. Boom! Qin Lai's fist swept across. With this punch, the aura around him was instantly destroyed. His fist smashed towards Li Zongjiu in a crushing manner. A powerful aura condensed. Everyone could clearly see that Li Zongjiu's figure was instantly suppressed by the aura formed by Qin Lai's fist. It was indeed the difference between realms. Even if you were smart and had more tricks up your sleeve, your origin energy wouldn't be able to withstand it if your realm wasn't high enough. Thus, you would only end up being crushed. Pfft! However, Li Zongjiu's figure instantly disappeared. An afterimage. The ray of light disappeared in front of his eyes. Li Zongjiu's figure instantly disappeared. Seeing this scene, Qin Lai was also stunned. This Li Zongjiu had actually used an afterimage to deceive him. Then what about his real body? In the next second, Qin Lai turned around and immediately felt a terrifying blood fiend energy coming from behind him. The blood energy behind him roiled as if he had entered hell. Such a shocking aura caused Qin Lai's figure to freeze on the spot. Blood extinguishing palm. Li Zongjiu mobilized the blood dragon origin spirit's power and poured it into his palms. This palm strike was filled with the power of death and destruction as it flew towards Qin Lai. Although Qin Lai noticed Li Zongjiu's movement, it was already too late for him to block it. Even the elemental energy in his body was only enough to protect himself. Boom! Li Zongjiu's palm hit Qin Lai's body. Qin Lai was instantly sent flying more than 20 meters away. However, during this process, Qin Lai's feet were firmly planted on the ground and did not let go. As a result, a long charred mark was left on the ground. However, after Li Zongjiu's palm hit, it brought about a certain amount of trouble to himself. Qin Lai's origin energy fire seemed to have spread to Li Zongjiu's body. At this moment, it was already entrenched around Li Zongjiu's body. It seemed to want to melt Li Zongjiu. This is bad. Qin Lai cultivates the creeping earth fire. Once he comes into contact with it, he will definitely be burned. The Long Herb Peak's elder immediately said. Hearing the elder's words, Lin Yao and the others became worried. What should we do now? He's dead for sure. Wang Bai slapped his thigh. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Li Zongjiu was entangled by the creeping earth fire. How could he get rid of it? However, under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Li Zongjiu's entire body was burning with flames. However, he did not give in. Instead, he reached out a hand and circulated his origin energy, directly extinguishing the creeping earth fire bit by bit. Before that, Li Zongjiu's body had already suffered many injuries. However, Li Zongjiu did not move an inch and his expression did not change. Chapter 114. Third grade earth creeping verdant flame. It's been refined into such trash by you. Li Zongjiu shattered Qin Lai's earth creeping flame. He said disdainfully. Wang Bai and the others seemed to have predicted this. This Li Zongjiu seemed to often act pretentiously, always criticizing others for their incompetence. But most importantly, Li Zongjiu's pretentiousness was on point. What did he mean by refined into such trash? His words couldn't be so simple and direct. Elder Qin Lai, as the peak master of Lai Peak, had cultivated this earth-creeping verdant flame art for at least 30 to 40 years. He naturally knew how to cultivate this elemental art. But now, in front of Li Zongjiu, it seemed to be worthless. You're courting death. Qin Lai gritted his teeth in anger. It seemed that in front of Li Zongjiu, the elemental art he cultivated was trash, dog shit. No, it wasn't his elemental art. It was that after he cultivated it, he was looked down upon by this Li Zongjiu. This was looking down on his talent. The earth-creeping flame entangles endlessly. The green leaves of the verdant flame extend endlessly. This flame of yours has been refined into a dying candle by you, and you still have the face to display it in front of me? Li Zongjiu took a step forward. By the time he finished speaking, Li Zongjiu had already taken 10 steps forward. Shortening the distance by 10 steps, in the next moment, Li Zongjiu's palm actually emitted a terrifying flame aura. This flame rose vertically into the air. The appearance it took was the earth-creeping flame that Qin Lai had used before. What? Qin Lai's eyes instantly widened. He had cultivated the earth-creeping verdant flame for a total of 43 years. It was only with his understanding of the elemental art that he was able to cultivate this earth-creeping flame. But Li Zongjiu had never seen this elemental art before. He directly used his own elemental energy to condense this earth-creeping flame. Looking at the power of the earth-creeping flame, it seemed to be more flexible than Qin Lai's. Li Zongjiu wasn't here to perform. He directly flung the earth-creeping flame out of his hand with a whoosh. Instantly, with a whistling sound, it directly wrapped around Qin Lai, who was still in shock. It wasn't that Qin Lai was useless. It was just that Qin Lai knew that with Li Zongjiu's cultivation, the earth-creeping flame wouldn't pose any threat to him. Indeed, this earth-creeping flame only wrapped around his body. It was so weak that it could be easily shattered. Wait, this earth-creeping flame, actually, Qin Lai, earth-creeping flames wood flames verdant flame was flame, flames verdant flame, flames woods flame. Earth-creeping flames, it's, to the flames flame, it, flames, to's verdant flame. Between them, they actually started to grow once again. The more he fought, the more the earth-creeping flame grew. The exploding creeping earth fire once again wrapped around Qin Lai. Although its power was very weak, its advantage was that it grew and multiplied endlessly. It was very tiring. Damn it! Li Zongjiu didn't stay idle under such circumstances. With a wave of his hand, the azure light sword actually returned to his hand. With the azure light sword in hand, Li Zongjiu's figure quickly rushed forward. Ancient sword art, Nirvana empty valley. Li Zongjiu's charging footsteps suddenly stopped, and the sword in his hand suddenly slashed out. At this moment, the azure light sword in his hand seemed to be blooming with endless radiance. It was obviously an ordinary profound grade weapon. But in the hands of Li Zongjiu, it was like a peerless divine weapon. The terrifying sword aura spread out. Qin Lai was still fiddling with the earth-creeping flame in his hand because he seemed to have comprehended something just now. However, Li Zongjiu's sword came at the right time. Qin Lai didn't want to interrupt this enlightenment. He could only stand on the spot and continue to comprehend the power of the earth-creeping flame that Li Zongjiu used. Qin Lai stood on the spot. Qin Lai stood at his original spot, his entire body entangled by the creeping earth fire. Then, he was hit by Li Zongjiu's sword. This sword had the power to sweep away thousands of troops. Qin Lai's protective origin energy was released. This was his origin energy's automatic reaction when it sensed an external threat. What Li Zongjiu wanted to destroy was this aura. Destroy. Boom. The sword aura whistled and swallowed Qin Lai in an instant. Then, Qin Lai's figure was directly thrown out. This sword seemed to have set off a hurricane in the arena. Qin Lai's protective origin energy was automatically shattered. Bang! Qin Lai's body was blasted out. He fell to the ground. The entire arena was in an uproar. No one expected that Elder Qin Lai would fall to the ground as if he was cursed. Moreover, he fell out of the arena. Li Zongjiu had easily won. What was he doing? He didn't even have the slightest bit of defense. Elder Qin Lai had already been defeated. When Qin Lai was sent flying, he was stunned. Everyone was shocked. Even the referee elders widened their eyes in shock. They were worried that Qin Lai would beat Li Zongjiu half to death, so they gathered a few more people to help mediate the fight. However, the current situation was something that they could not believe no matter how hard they tried. Li Zongjiu, an ordinary disciple from Longherb Peak, had joined the sect for less than half a year. They had never heard of this person before. He won just like that. Could it be that this was Qin Lai's scheme? Qin Lai obviously didn't want to continue holding the position of Great Elder, so he deliberately agreed to such a battle and then pretended to lose by accident. Using such a method was simply too despicable. It was despicable just thinking about it. However, Qin Lai had already lost the battle. Why was there no movement? This was completely different from his style. The few people looked at each other. When they wanted to go over and take a look, they saw Qin Lai suddenly turn over and sit up. Then, he looked up and laughed loudly. Ahahaha, I understand, I understand. I finally understand. No wonder I couldn't break through my realm after so long. I went in the wrong direction. Qin Lai laughed out loud. Then, he looked at his surroundings and realized that he had already fallen to the ground. He was immediately stunned. He scratched his head, then jumped and landed directly in front of Li Zongjiu. Elder Qin Lai. Elder Qin Lai. The few of them immediately became nervous. Could it be that this elder Li Zongjiu wanted to silence them? Since they had lost to Li Zongjiu, they naturally had to kill them. Only then would they be able to protect their reputation. However, they saw the most shocking scene in their lives. They saw Qin Lai bowing to Li Zongjiu. He was actually bowing to Li Zongjiu. I admit defeat in this battle. From now on, you will be the great elder of Fierce Peak. I, Qin Lai, am willing to give up my position. The moment these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. Chapter 115. What was wrong with Li Zongjiu? To think that he could actually force the first elder of Lai Peak to lower his head and admit defeat. Such strength was definitely not a joke. Who knew what the first elder had gone through? The people of Long Medicine Peak were in an uproar. Fuck, this is too exciting. A disciple of Long Medicine Peak is going to be poached to become the first elder. Senior Brother Li is from Long Medicine Peak. How can they take him away? Senior Brother Li, don't go. While Long Medicine Peak was in an uproar, Ru Peak on the other side was in an even greater uproar. What was going on? Their great elder was actually going to be a brat who was still wet behind the ears and whose hair had not even fully grown yet. Wasn't this, if this was leaked out? The people of Long Medicine Peak would be able to suppress Rue Peak for a lifetime. Just as these people were about to explode from anxiety, Chu Aoran, who was on the spectator stand, had a few more voices beside him. How could he be so reckless? To become an elder of the sect, one had to go through many rounds of selection and assessment. However, since Qin Lai had said such words, this meant that Qin Lai had already learned about Li Zongjiu's special abilities. It was this ability that gave him the confidence to acknowledge Li Zongjiu's position. Otherwise, Li Zongjiu's victory would not have convinced Qin Lai. Qin Lai was now very convinced of Li Zongjiu's strength. Let's wait and see. There's no hurry. Chu Aoran said with a smile as he tried to persuade the anxious Peak Master of Rue Peak. Of course, Lin Song was also very worried. It would be terrible if Li Zongjiu went over directly. Long Medicine Peak was waiting for such a disciple to appear. He was going to make Long Medicine Peak famous. From then on, no one in the sect would dare to say that Long Medicine Peak only knew how to refine pills. If they did not produce a few experts, these people would not know how powerful Long Medicine Peak was. Lin Song had promised Li Zongjiu so many benefits to the Li family in order to tie him down. This was clearly a show of goodwill. You don't have to be an elder. Just send your monthly salary to my residence. Li Zongjiu said with his hands behind his back. These words were said without the slightest trace of politeness. He just wanted to show an image of keeping his promise, but it was a bit too much for you to take advantage of him like this. Some of the Blazing Peak disciples looked at Li Zongjiu with displeasure. Just now, Li Zongjiu had used some kind of demonic technique to knock their great elder out of the arena. Anyone could see that if they were to fight head-on, Li Zongjiu would not be able to shake Qin Lai at all. Unexpectedly, not only was Qin Lai not angry at all, he even happily nodded his head in agreement. Of course, of course. Qin Lai knew. The insights that Li Zongjiu had just imparted to Qin Lai could be said to have given him a second life. Such benefits were not something that could be casually exchanged for with worldly wealth. He had been stuck at the level of a grade 5 origin general for a very long time. He could not break through for a long time. This had troubled Qin Lai for a long time, but after comprehending the knowledge that Li Zongjiu had imparted to him, he understood. He immediately understood. His next cultivation method could also ensure that he could break through the limits that had been restricting him all this while. He had already found the breakthrough point and was just waiting for him to accumulate strength. Therefore, this little bit of money was worth it. It was far from enough. Kid, how dare you humiliate our great elder? I want to fight you one-on-one. Fuck. Brothers, let's drag this brat down and give him a good beating. Kill him. For example, the disciples of Lai Peak were clamoring as if they were going to revolt. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky and naturally attracted everyone's attention. The originally angry and explosive emotions gradually calmed down. Everyone's doubts about the competition were temporarily put aside. This was because the person who had appeared was the sect leader, Chu Aoran. When Li Zongjiu saw Chu Aoran, his heart skipped a beat and he bowed. Although he was the evil lord in his previous life, he was still a disciple of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. When he saw the sect leader, he naturally had to bow. This was a basic courtesy. Long Herb Peak disciple Li Zongjiu will be the guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect from today onwards. Li Zongjiu, are you willing? Guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. This was the most special position in the system of the sect. The so-called guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect was still responsible for protecting the sect's safety and honor. However, there was a special point. The guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect would only be needed when the sect was in a life-and-death situation. This was equivalent to the Supreme Elder before he retired. If even the guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect could not handle it, the Supreme Elder would personally take action. What, this kid is actually going to be conferred the title of Guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect by the sect leader himself. Damn it. What, Guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect? That's not the highest level of Guardian. Even the Great Elder can't control them. Only the sect leader can summon them. The treatment is also the highest in the sect. This Li Zongjiu is really lucky. Li Zongjiu was shocked. He did not expect that Chu Aoran would appear to give him such a position. It had to be said that this was the position that Li Zongjiu was most satisfied with. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu did not spend much time in the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. What he experienced was extremely dark and he did not have many friends. Therefore, Li Zongjiu planned to leave the Fog Snow Alchemy sect directly after going to the Fog Snow Valley. However, Chu Aoran had now extended an olive branch. Furthermore, the Guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect was also a very easy position. Normally, he would not need to use it at all. It was much better than the position of an elder. Normally, he would have to deal with some messy affairs. Moreover, this Guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect could also be used by Li Zongjiu in the early stages. This way, it would be more beneficial and convenient for the family. Okay, I'll agree for the time being. Li Zongjiu said after thinking for a while. For the time being, he agreed. Even Chu Aoran stared at Li Zongjiu in shock. Li Zongjiu's tone was extremely arrogant. To be able to resist such a great temptation and say such words, it seemed that the position of Guardian of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect was not very attractive to him. However, Chu Aoran was not curious about Li Zongjiu's secret and his arrogance. As long as Li Zongjiu was loyal to the sect, there would be no problem. This is the order of Guardian Changwu. When the sect is in a life and death situation, Guardian Changwu must appear. Chu Aoran handed Li Zongjiu a platinum token. After Li Zongjiu took it, Chu Aoran clapped his hands. At the side, Qin Lai also took the lead in applauding. Soon, all of the disciples began to applaud. Guardian Changwu was the last line of defense of the sect. For Guardians Changwu, they only needed to appear when the sect was in a life and death situation. However, for these ordinary disciples, the purpose of these Guardians Changwu's life was to protect the sect. It was also because of these powerful and mysterious guardians. They ensured the absolute safety of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. The applause was thunderous. Chapter 116. After this year's peak test. Just Li Zongjiu's limelight was enough to overshadow everyone else's performance. There were 15 people in the top 5 from the 3 main peaks. Excluding Li Zongjiu, there were 14 people left. However, Li Zongjiu was the only one who had the most topics to talk about among the 14 people. This made it even more awkward. In fact, the topic of everyone's private conversations was all about Li Zongjiu. Something worth mentioning. On the day of the peak test. In the clinic, Mo Chu woke up from his coma and had a bad premonition. When he heard that he was ranked 4th, he almost wanted to die. However, when Mo Chu heard the following words and found out that Li Zong had actually defeated the first elder of the Ardent Peak, he almost spat out a mouthful of fresh blood from his chest. However, he held it in. What? What did you say? You said that damn Li Zongjiu became Protector Changwu. Pfft. When he heard the news, Mo Chu, who was strong, could not hold it in anymore. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell unconscious on the bed. This blow was too big for Mo Chu. Because Mo Chu had hoped that he could become Protector Changwu. Later on, he thought that he might as well run for the position of Sect Master. However, Li Zongjiu had become the Protector of Changwu. Even if Mo Chu became the next Sect Master candidate, he would still be a level lower than Li Zongjiu. For Li Zongjiu, Protector Changwu was just taking advantage of the situation. It was normal for him to add some benefits to the family in the future. even if Li Zongjiu did not take the initiative to ask for some benefits. Some people in the Fog Snow Alchemy sect would try to curry favor with the Li family. Although Protector Changwu didn't usually say this, his words carried a lot of weight. Li Zongjiu was more concerned about the opening of the Fog Snow Valley. It just so happened that on the second day of the peak trials, they were the disciples who were going to enter the Fog Snow Valley. In front of Fog Snow Valley, there were two people standing beside Li Zongjiu. Yang Hongyu, Ma Zhao. Ma Zhao was a lucky bastard. Therefore, he was qualified to enter the Fog Snow Valley. They also received their own reward, a high-grade level 2 pill. Turtle Essence Condensing Pill. This pill was refined by Lin Sung. Li Zongjiu had already seen this pill before and he was extremely familiar with its refinement technique. It was no wonder that he could become the peak master of Long Medicine Peak. With such a face and many skills, it would not be difficult for the current Lin Sung to refine a grade 3 pill. Standing beside Li Zongjiu, Yang Hongyu, Ma Zhao, and the others couldn't help but feel restrained. The three peak masters went to open the restriction in front of the Fog Snow Valley. After the three of you enter, find a place to cultivate the Yuan formula yourselves. Remember, don't be too hasty. This turtle essence condensing pill has the effect of concentrating one's spirit. It can help you increase your concentration and increase the refining of the Yuan Qi. However, it can only last for a day. You have to make the best use of it. Lin Sung explained. The restriction was opened. In the Fog Snow Valley, a strong Yuan Qi immediately filled the air. Some Yuan Qi filled the air. Everyone felt energized. Li Zongjiu did not say anything and took the lead to enter. This turtle essence condensing pill was obviously not enough. When Li Zongjiu entered, Yang Hongyu and Ma Zhao also followed behind him. The three peak masters. They also closed the restriction again and waited for 3 days to open it again. This ensured that the Yuan Qi inside would not be too exhausted and dissipated. The space in the valley was not too big. It was about 20 to 30 feet wide and was surrounded by cliffs that were hundreds of feet high. Fortunately, the lighting here was good and very transparent. It looked like a deep well. This was the second time Yang Hongyu came to the Fog Snow Valley. Last year, he also came to the Fog Snow Valley as the second place. This is the Fog Snow Valley. Senior brother, the Yuan Qi here is at least 10 times richer than outside. Ma Zhao said excitedly. Just then, he saw Li Zongjiu stop. Yang Hongyu's heart jumped. He rolled his eyes and immediately took out his turtle essence condensing pill and handed it over. Lord Protector, I'm not in a hurry to make a breakthrough. The Fog Snow Valley opens once a year. This turtle essence condensing pill is just right for me to use. Protector Li, please accept it. Yang Hongyu was a wily old fox in the sect. It was no wonder that he had cultivated for a longer time. He immediately saw through Li Zongjiu's intention. In fact, Li Zongjiu was about to open his mouth and rob him. However, Yang Hongyu's initiative made Li Zongjiu feel a little embarrassed. You're quite tactful, Li Zongjiu said. Then, he took the turtle essence condensing pill. He looked at Ma Zhao. Yang Hongyu also looked at Ma Zhao. Ma Zhao was stunned at first. Then, he quickly came to his senses. He quickly offered his pill as a tribute. Li Zongjiu accepted it all. Anyway, it would be a waste for these people to take the pill. With their level, they couldn't refine it at all. Okay. You guys go find your own place, Li Zongjiu said. Then, he swaggered and sat in the center of the room. The closer he got to the center, the stronger the Yuan Qi was. Seeing Li Zongjiu sitting in the center, Yang Hongyu and Ma Zhao consciously moved to the side. To be able to have such a deterrent force, it was a display of strength. Just when Li Zongjiu was cultivating in the Fog Snow Valley. In the Luoxia city, there were also a lot of new things happening. First, the Bai family and the Li family both sent people to occupy a part of the Huangyuan, Oregon. They also swaggered and opened a store in the Flying Cloud City. They also wantonly recruited miners and gave them great benefits to mine the Huangyuan, Oregon. The main business was also handed over to the Bai family. In the first 2 days of recruiting, there was a lot of bloodshed. Although some forces in the city were afraid of the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle and the reputation of the fog-snow alchemy sect, they didn't dare to act rashly. However, some mountain bandits wouldn't hold back in the slightest when they made their move. The Huangyuan or vein was in the mountain. If one wanted to pass by, he must first pay the toll, which was the so-called protection fee. If paying could solve the problem, it was still possible. However, people were always greedy. Therefore, they must use knives and blood to let these people know that money was not an option. Since the Li family had a relationship with the Long Herb Peak, they might as well expand. The Bai family came up with the idea to hang the Fog Snow Alchemy sect as the external family. Since they were bound to the Fog Snow Alchemy sect, those who wanted to attack naturally had to restrain themselves and think more carefully. Outside the Huangyuan, Oregon, more than 10 sharp logs were inserted into the ground. There was also a head on each of these logs. There was a buzzing sound on it. Some flies and mosquitoes also stayed on it, taking root and nesting. Elder Bai Ching of the Bai family was wearing the uniform of the Bai family. Behind him was a group of Bai family guards and some mercenaries who had just been recruited from the Flying Cloud City. These people only cared about money and not people. The Bai family controlled the Huangyuan ore, so the income was not ordinary. Therefore, it wasn't a problem for them to recruit some Yuan general-level experts. Now that the Bai family's forces had just arrived, they naturally had to patrol well to prevent the invasion of the weak. As for the heads that were strung on the wood, if there were people from the underworld, they would definitely be able to recognize them. The first head that was strung on the wood belonged to one of the top 10 bandit leaders in the vicinity, Big Teeth Huang. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.